Hello, everyone. David Pease here, broadcasting from Studio Squim, and I'm very excited about tonight. We've gotten a little bit of teasing here and there about some reveals, but this is one of our very popular X-Files CCG discussion panels, and so you can see we've got a very esteemed panel in front of us here. We do have Nathan that you're used to seeing here as well. He's going to be joining us in just a little bit. But gentlemen, there is something I have to intercede with, and you can see on this beginning slide, it says WinterSlam 2025. And this is something that I have been very excited about and trying to rally people around, and we've gotten a lot of a great response. And what this is based around. WinterSlam, I came up with this name, and it's a little hokey, but it's based around what I consider to be the finale, or the main event, which is WCW Full Impact. Stephen and I played that earlier this month or last month, and had a lot of fun with it. And I wanted a real tag, or not a tag team match, but a real match with some stakes in it. But that is kind of the finale for this. We are playing some games afterward because this is an all-day event spanning over 5 different channels, or 4 different channels. The 5th channel ended up not having anything scheduled for it. But so definitely tune in for WCW Full Impact, 5 p.m. No, 7 p.m. I'm going to call it up. I'm calling it up.
And can I just, before we get any further, I figured might want to, maybe we should introduce our panelists, because we have a very, very esteemed guest in our presence, David, and I feel like that should not just get glazed over, right?
No, I suppose. Like I get excited talking about these things, and it just becomes all about me. So starting at the top, David Pease, your host, producer. Right below me, Dave May. Now, Dave May, if you've been watching any of our channels, you know that he is the godfather of the X-Files CCG. He was involved in playtesting, game design, all of these things. He was at Gen Con. I could go on and on and on, but I know he's a very humble man, and he's been in contact with us, helping us find all of these different artifacts that you've seen everybody flex on the different channels before and after the games. All of this interesting stuff that we've been digging up. Dave May has been the impetus to all of that, and you'll see a little bit later on in the evening that he's dove back into the business. But I don't want to get too far into that, because I'm going to let him talk about that. Below Dave there, you see Guillaume. Guillaume is a regular on all of our channels, and a shrewd, intrepid competitor. He and I have a game tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific time, with the X-Files CCG. Guillaume, thank you very much for being here with us. Of course, Guillaume is also very involved behind the scenes with expansions, playtesting, and you'll see later on he's deep into it with expansion 6 and 7 and beyond. So we'll get to that in a little bit. And there's this other guy down below. It feels like,
we don't need to talk too much about him.
Is it Hollywood Squares, the Brady Bunch? It kind of feels like that a little bit. But Stephen Arvidsson, host of Alien Investigations channel. I always promote Stephen's channel, Alien Investigations, and after we're done, I'll put that in the description below, so you can get to it real quick. You don't have to memorize the name. You'll find it right away. But if you love the X-Files CCG, and I assume if you're here watching this, you do, you definitely want to be subscribed to the Alien Investigations channel. Stephen puts a lot of work into this. He has no life. His family has disowned him. All he does is X-Files CCG. Well, maybe not that extreme, but he does put a lot of work and production value into his games and his videos. He hosts discussions and interviews and all these kinds of things. So if you want to know about the X-Files CCG or the X-Files television show, he's like a living encyclopedia. He's a great guy, a lot of fun to play against too when you play the X-Files CCG.
Shucks, David. Let's get to the Winter
I know
Slam, shall we?
more
Good
about Steven
Lord.
than Dave May, and Dave May is the
Good
big
Lord,
celebrity
yes.
here.
But, yes. I mean, my gosh. I mean, you can't say enough about Dave May. I mean, he is the legend, and we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have, if we didn't have him to thank for all of his efforts. Anyway, WinterSlam.
WinterSlam starts tomorrow morning. I'm going to be speaking in Pacific time because I just don't want to calculate British Standard Time and European time and that kind of stuff. But it's going to start at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Guillaume and I are playing an X-Files CCG. We are playing with commercially released cards, Season 4, which if you don't know about Season 4 expansion, where have you been all this time? But we are going to talk a little bit about that in just a bit, so you'll get a refresher. We're also including the Scully set, which is the long lost expansion that was this close to being published, and unfortunately the game got the plug pulled, it got the rug pulled out from under it, so that expansion didn't quite make it to the printer, but through the hard work of Mike Perrine, Steven, Dave May, all these guys, Dax, of course,
Dax Golding. Do not forget Dax Golding in that.
I never forget Dax. He's always in my mind.
Yes.
But yes, Dax Golding, all involved in digging this up, finding the old files. They actually found the notebook with the notes and the screenshots. Everything was all planned out. The game effects, I don't know where the card numbers figured out to. I don't remember, but everything was pretty much done. It just wasn't at the printer. So they recovered that. Dax faithfully recreated those cards, and those are out there now. So Guillaume and I will be including those. And of course, I am also including proxies in that, because I'm just too cheap to buy the Scully set myself. So I'm printing a couple, but eventually I'll be convinced to, I'll get a crowbar strong enough to pry open my wallet and I'll buy the Scully set. But
so just to recap, so you and Guillaume are going to be playing tomorrow with commercial cards and then Scully set cards, right?
Commercial, Scully set, and Season 4.
And Season 4. Okay,
and
gosh,
Season 4.
Lord.
Oh yeah, it's big. I've been thinking about.
What about personalized cards?
Oh, that's a whole nother game with that.
Okay,
and,
we're talking about that later too. So.
We're talking about that later, and yeah, I'm excited about that. That's where you might actually see me pop in and talk a little bit. But so that's on Studio Squim, here on Studio Squim. Over on Alien Investigations, you're going to see Alistair, a friend of the channel and frequent guest on both Stephen and my channel. He's going to be playing against Jonathan Heggie, another special guest that you see regularly. They are playing Versus System, specifically using the X-Files expansion. Now, Versus System is not new. Likely you've heard of it. It did go through like a first generation back in the early 2000s, lasted for a few years. I don't know what the circumstances were, but it did get canceled. A couple years later, it was revived. They did change some of the rules, but the basics were still there. They started out in that first iteration, they had Marvel and DC and capitalized on that. When it came back, it was just Marvel. They weren't able to secure both at the same time, but it started out with Marvel. They went nuts. The Marvel Cinematic Universe came out, and then to kind of prod sales along and kind of make things interesting, they started using other IPs, namely Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the X-Files, and The Boys is also out there as well. A couple more that are out there. So we discovered the X-Files expansion. Some of us were interested in it, and it was kind of fun. So we did kind of a side thing with that. and played a few games here on Studio Squim. But tomorrow you're going to see that at 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Central on Alien Investigations. You're going to see that there, playing Versus System, Alistair, Jonathan Hagee, Versus System, X-Files. It's a fun expansion. It's kind of funny when I've played it. I think I played 3 or 4 games with the X-Files expansion, and whenever someone plays X or Deep Throat, I immediately go, "Oh no!" because I'm always thinking X-Files CCG, but it's a completely different game. So you'll see a lot of the same names and characters and that sort of thing, but the mechanics are completely different. So it's a totally different game, same IP, so it's still a lot of fun to watch the characters interact and characters kind of fight. It's more with the X-Files CCG. It's more of an investigation, a recreation of an episode with case assignment and an investigation and equipment and all this other stuff. Whereas the Versus system is more just fight them up and pew pew and all that kind of stuff. So it goes a little faster, it plays a little different, but it's a lot of fun. And if you tune into that,
X-Files battles, so I take that to mean it is heavy in the combat. I haven't played the game before, so I'm just hosting it tomorrow. I'll be observing Jonathan and Alistair playing it. For me, it'll be the first time I've seen that go down.
That's kind of how.
Like if you buy, I'm not familiar with the system either. So if you just buy one box and you have the whole game ready for 2 players, or you have to buy several expansions in order to be able to play the game?
You can buy the X-Files expansion alone. You don't have to have like a base set or anything like that. You can start with just the X-Files Versus System battles, and you're good to go. And there's actually enough cards in there to make 2 starter decks, plus quite a few extra cards, so you can mix it up and have a couple different combinations. And the whole thing with the Versus system is that it's a very basic mechanic that spreads out across Marvel, Buffy, X-Files, the boys, all these things. So you can mix the cards together and play.
Wow.
Alistair and I played the boys versus Marvel superheroes a couple of weeks ago. There are a couple stipulations with that. There's what's called the animated or the comic universe, and then the photographic universe. X-Files obviously using screenshots and that kind of stuff, so that's considered the photographic. A lot of the Marvel stuff is taken from the comic books and that sort of thing, that kind of art style. You can play those 2 against each other, but you can't mix them. So you can't have cards with photographic screenshots mixed with the art style. But you can play X-Files versus the boys. You can play the boys versus Iron Man. All these kinds of things. You can mix them up, and you can even mix the decks or the expansions. I've been playing with and trying to find a competitor to play a mixed deck that I have with the X-Files and Buffy working together against another opponent. So that's kind of the fun thing about Versus system is.
So it sounds like it's optional deck building. You can just work with just the X-Files battles cards only, and that will suffice, which I believe that's what's happening tomorrow.
That's what's happening tomorrow. They're playing just X-Files.
Okay.
Jonathan is still pretty new. He knows of Versus System, but this is the first game of Versus System that he's had. Alistair, on the other hand, is an old hand at the game. He's got a huge collection of the Marvel prior to all these expansions. He kind of he played it for a long time, set it aside, and then when he saw the X-Files expansion, he got interested, and so now he's kind of back into it. But just like Guillaume and I were saying, you could get the X-Files expansion, and you don't have to get anything else. You can play just the X-Files if you want. So you don't have to mix it, but the idea behind it is that you can play almost anybody versus anybody, and so the game mechanics are pretty much the same all the way around. Some keywords might be different between the different properties, but for the most part, it's it's kind of a generic. I don't want to say generic in a bad way, but a generic gameplay mechanics and that sort of thing, and the cards fit into that regardless of the universe that they come from. So it's
So what else is happening in WinterSlam tomorrow? So we've got you and Guillaume doing a game of X-Files CCG with, season 4 and Scully set expansion. We got Alien Investigations Alien Investigations is hosting an X-Files Battles VA system game. That's at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What else is happening tomorrow?
Right after that, Nathan and I are playing that Versus System X-Files as same format. We're just playing X-Files. So go right from Alien Investigations back to Studio Squim, and you'll see Nathan and I playing Versus System. I don't believe he's played Versus System before, so it'll be kind of an interesting game. We'll see how that plays out, but we're going to be playing that. There's also going to be Star Trek, the card game, not the Decipher one that you may know. It's Star Trek, the card game that was published by Fleer Skybox back in '96. A lot of fun, completely different from Decipher. So if you know Decipher, you know that game, you don't know this one. So you definitely want to tune in and check it out. It focuses on the original series. It didn't get far enough to be able to expand into the movies and all that kind of stuff. They did the base set and one expansion, and then that unfortunately they lost the license. Decipher took over and they did their whole thing with that.
So is that original series? It didn't get to Next Generation? Or
no. In fact, it only got as far as like halfway through season 2 with that second expansion. And then they too got the rug pulled out from under them and lost the license because Decipher was pretty hot. I don't need to introduce Decipher at all. Everybody knows those guys, but they took over the license after that, and the rest is history. But this game was kind of relegated to kind of the graveyard, as it were. But it's a lot of fun. Nathan and I have played it. Alistair and I have played it. And then tomorrow for WinterSlam, you're going to see Alistair and I playing that again tomorrow. It's a lot of fun. Very different mechanics. Not something you've seen before. So if you're even slightly interested, definitely you want to check it out.
Have you played that game, Mr. May?
I actually, a long time ago in a land far away, if it's a CCG from 2000, I've probably, or beyond, before, I may have touched it. So that's why I'm nodding, because it's a deep cut because it was classic. So
yeah, this one came out in '96, late '96. The first expansion came out at the beginning of '97, and they were again this close to another expansion. They had the ad slicks printed and distributed to card stores. They were all ready to go, and whoever owned the Star Trek license at that time just kind of said, "Nah, we're not going to renew it with you."
Yeah, I don't have my cards. So somewhere those cards exist, right? In whatever tub, hidden in whatever corner of the house. But I'll wait for when we bring up Highlander.
David May, perhaps when you find those cards. Anyway, so we'll be playing Star Trek the card game, then jump back over to X-Files CCG. They are going to be playing X-Files CCG. That's going to be Mike Perrine, the host of that channel, playing against Jonathan, who you will have seen earlier that day playing the Versus system. They're going to be playing, I don't know what I do know, it's sealed decks is the format that they're going to be playing. Sealed decks and a couple of boosters. They're going to open it up and make their deck on the fly right there. It's crazy. It's pandemonium. You never know what you're going to see, but it's always fun, especially to see people just doing the best they can with what they got out of the box and out of the foil. So it's you're forced to kind of just shoot from the hip and just have some fun with it. So it
didn't go very well for Mike in in that format last night against Nathan. So hopefully he won't be having performance issues with that game tomorrow with Jonathan.
Oh, well, that's kind of part of the fun of it, right? Is you never know what you're going to get. You may get stuck with that bureaucracy deck, and
which, interestingly, I'll spoil that. Neither of them got the bureaucracy team. Neither of them. And Guillaume, I don't believe we've ever seen a sealed game where at least one of us didn't have the bureaucracy team. Well, actually, no, we've probably seen that. More interestingly, we've never seen a sealed game where one player got a team of Mulder and another player got a team of Scully. I've never seen that in a sealed game, and that's what happened. So I won't say more than that, but go watch that one. And yeah, Mike will be wanting to hopefully put on a better show tomorrow with Jonathan. And
hopefully
the bureaucracy team, undoubtedly.
Hopefully the odds are in their favor tomorrow with that. But you'll see that. That is at noon Pacific, 2 p.m. Central, over on X-Files CCG. They're playing the X-Files CCG over there. Later on in the day there, let me double check this time, 3:30 back on Studio Squim. I'm having Jonathan Wood as a special guest. He is opening booster packs of Scooby-Doo, the expandable card game, which is a new personal favorite of mine. It's a lot of fun, and you've heard us talk about it on the various channels. It is, we've called it the spiritual successor to the X-Files CCG. It came shortly afterward. Used a lot of those mechanics there. You can see Dave again nodding his head. Yeah, he knows. He's very familiar because he had his. Did you have your fingers involved in that one, Dave? Help me out.
Yeah,
a little bit.
No, I was there. I'll put it that way. Again, fun stories for another time. From X-Files to Harry Potter to Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
Whoa. So yeah, Jonathan was able to procure an incredible amount of booster packs. I don't know how he found all these, but he's going to be opening a good amount of those. And he and I will be talking about the cards as they get revealed out of the foil there. And talking about that. I love doing the Scooby-Doo game and the booster openings. I grew up on Scooby-Doo Where Are You back in the late 70s. I won't get any further into it than that, but I will say I watched the reruns. Anyway, it's a lot of fun to see. You'll see all the villains, the friends, all the people, the episodes. It's all in there, and just like the X-Files CCG. When you see these cards starting to get played on the table, you start getting nostalgic. And I remember Captain Cutler's Ghost, and I remember the Creeper and all these different things, and the Plunger bow and arrows, and all the goofy things that they did. And, you use Scooby Snacks as a currency to pay for all the different cards that are part of the game.
Surprisingly, not a lot of what you see on those cards. There's some of it that is not exactly politically correct by today's standards.
There's a few. Even I was doing a booster opening the other night, and a couple of them I was a little hesitant to read out loud, to be honest with you. But I went for it. I figured
it's written on the card. What are you gonna do?
Flame me in the comments. That was the time, and that was what it was. And there you go. But yeah. But anyway, I digress. Once you see that game start hitting the table, you start remembering all the different things. And when Jonathan and I did a booster opening a few months ago, I kind of had some fun with it. We did it on an early Saturday morning, and I was sitting there. He was opening the packs, and I had my bowl of cereal. I was eating the cereal, and we were talking about all the different characters that were coming up as he went through the boosters. So it was a lot of fun. So Jonathan Wood and I will be doing that tomorrow at 3:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Central. We'll be going through that. And so he is probably going to be looking for some cards to fill his deck. Not long after that, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, that's when Steven and I step into the ring to play WCW Full Impact. And if you're curious about the game, you're not sure what it was, Steven and I played a game on Alien Investigations channel, so you can go check that out. You can see us play. It's a lot of fun. The chairs are there, the metal chairs. I got the chance to hit Steven with a metal chair a couple of times. I don't remember
I'm still
if I
feeling
faked
the
out
bruises of that.
I don't remember if I got to fake out the referee. I think I did. I think both of us had a chance to play a card that was it only counts if the referee sees it, I think is the name or something like that. So all the fun things, all the tricks of professional wrestling, you're going to see those cards out there, and it's a lot of fun to there's a lot of back and forth. I put you in a headlock. Oh yeah, well I broke out of it and I'm jumping off the top rope to get you. And, and the real fun about that, and we haven't explored it yet, but I am hoping we get some people excited about this game. A tag team match. I want to do 2 versus 2 on that. I think that would be a ton of fun. I don't know how we'll do it online, but we're going to do it. It's going to happen. Somehow, some way, and but when you see that game, when you see Steven and I playing that game, it's going to be just like the Scooby-Doo game. You're going to, oh, I remember Hulk Hogan doing this and Sting doing that, and all these things. It's all going to come back to you. It's a ton of fun. Dave May, you know something about that game too. Am I right? We should have called this.
No,
we should have called this Mayfest or something, because it's pretty much
David
May games.
I didn't know it was so busy back then, but yeah. So what a awesome opportunity to get to be part of that. Again, another good friend of mine. Yeah, just real fun. Supposed to be fun. Is fun.
Is fun.
Is fun.
Yeah. No. Well, wrestling is a strange, like I said, ebb and flow in the toy game industry, right? And not that we want to go off on a tangent with me, but yeah, it was a hoot. Again, New World Order. Hulk had just come over to WCW, Turner Property from the WWF. Everybody was there at the time. I lament. Technically, we didn't publish them, but there was ICP. We did have Insane Clown Posse. They started in WCW. They wrestled there briefly.
Is this another long lost expansion that we might be able to dig up?
Yeah, boy, to go back and to make those cards. But yeah, just super fun stuff with that. So you guys again bring joy, to all these things that I remember so dearly. Yeah. And again, the odds that they all came together, whether it was X-Files or Scooby or, not to plug anything other than those, but, zombies. Okay. I said it, all the things I was really super lucky to be around, and the people that I got to be around, yeah, but we loved even though technically the Macho Man did not come over, but every Sting you mentioned, Ric Flair, it's great, and you get to wrestle, it's fun. I enjoyed that game immensely, and it comes with choking hazards, so be careful.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I was pretty hungry when we were playing. It was tough. It was tough to resist, but I lived through it. But yeah,
it was almost a permanent KO.
You almost won permanently. But it's a lot of the same twists and turns that you see in wrestling that you remember watching. Affiliation changes, midway through a match was like, forget the NWO, I'm WCW all the way, all those fun things are embodied in that game, which makes it a ton of fun. So, WCW Full Impact, you're going to see that. That's refresh my memory. I've
9 p.m. right? 9 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep, 7 Pacific, 9 Central. Steven and I will be playing that. Now, immediately after that, we are going right into, I've talked already about it, Scooby-Doo expandable card game. Competitors TBD. We're gonna see. It might be Steven versus John Woods. It might be me versus John Woods. I don't know. I might.
It's definitely going to be John Wood for sure. John Wood will
is
definitely be one of the competitors.
He's going to be there.
But I might be turning the reins over to David Peace to do that because it's his game more than in his mind. He's better at it than I am, and I feel like that might be a good. Because I think that's the last. Is that the last game of WinterSlam, or do we have something else? But either way, like I think it might be a more serviceable recording broadcast for the viewers if the more knowledgeable players took the reins. But we'll talk about it. We'll reveal that more.
Yeah, I don't know about that. You know, Steven might he might be too battered and bruised from me taking the championship.
It's true.
He might just be too embarrassed, and I'll just have to take over. He'll tag me in. Maybe you'll see Steven, maybe you'll see me. One way or the other, you're going to see a game of Scooby-Doo expandable card games. So you'll get an introduction on Studio Squim when Jonathan and I go through those packs, and we'll talk about some of the cards and the mechanics. Then you're going to see it in action just a few hours afterward, getting it out on the table. So tons of games all day long. And starting tonight, of course, this is kind of the unofficial start of WinterSlam with this X-Files CCG discussion. Gentlemen, I don't think I can put it off any longer. People are probably getting tired of hearing me talk. We're still waiting for one panelist, Nathan.
I still have
join
one
us.
question. We were talking about games and X-Files related games. So I wanted to ask you, David, do you know about the X-File Legendary Encounters game?
I have that game.
And is it so? What? Because I've seen it, but I don't know. Is it good? Is it worth going?
Look at that. Nathan's joining us. Speak of the devil. Nathan, thank you for joining us.
Speak of the devil.
Yes, joining us, Nathan, of course, host of Chasing the Dragon Media, another fine YouTube channel where you'll find X-Files CCG content as well as Magic and Star Trek, the card game, which I cannot talk enough about. But Guillaume, you were talking about X-Files Legendary Encounters. It is a great game. It's a multiplayer game. I think you can have up to 6 people playing at once, and it's all of you versus the game. So it's a cooperative game. There are hidden agendas. They're in envelopes that you open throughout the course of the game. So there are twists and turns that'll happen. It's much like, and it's made by the same guys, Upper Deck, a lot like the Versus system where I was saying there's like a base game and then they can reskin it with different IPs. Legendary Encounters is a game mechanic that they have skinned with the X-Files. They've got Aliens, James Bond. They've got a whole bunch of Legendary Encounters games. X-Files is one of them. And I'll tell you what, I watched that game played on a couple different channels just because I was like, well, I'm into X-Files, right? Let's check this out. And it's a fun game. I didn't want to watch too much because there are spoilers. With revealing some of those case files and that sort of thing. So I didn't watch all of it. The only problem I think would be is if you can play a solo. You can play it 2-player. It's not nearly as much fun. It really is kind of a party game. And we haven't quite figured out all the logistics to be able to get enough people remotely to play it. It would require quite a few cameras. It is possible. And I'm still kind of noodling that in my head. How can we get Legendary Encounters on the table? Because I think all of you would enjoy it. Even you, Stephen. I know you're into X-Files CCG exclusively, but I think you would enjoy this, especially working together. All of us working together to get through the thing. Nathan, are you familiar with Legendary Encounters at all?
I am. I actually have a copy. And the thing I kind of like about it is you can, I mean, there are a few difficulties, but generally speaking, you can integrate sets. So your heroes from the X-Files could be adapted into a game of Alien, for example, or the Predator, Legendary Encounters. It's possible to do those kinds of things, but I think it would be it's going to be a tough webcam game, I think, just because
Yeah.
of the deck building aspect of it. I mean, you'd all have to
Right.
have the same cards and in the same sequencing and stuff. So
Yeah, that's something where I'm trying to figure out. Mike Perrine from MMX Files CCG offered his channel because he's got the premium StreamYard account, and I have not been able to pry my wallet open for that either. So I'm, but he would be able to share his channel, and we would be able to have the number of cameras that we need on screen at the same time. But yeah, there's just some logistics, and I'll probably have to play a few games of it myself, just to kind of figure out just to try and figure out like what's going to happen further down into the game, where I don't want to be surprised, be like, oh shit, we need an 8th camera and I don't have one, kind of a thing. So try and get that figured out. But you might see that coming up. Guillaume, I'm glad you asked that. Do you have a copy, or you just heard about it?
No, I've heard about it a few years ago, and yeah, every copy that I could find, even used copies, they are pretty expensive. So, well, at least over here, like I was looking at it while we were discussing, and the cheapest that I can find it is 100 euros. So I don't know if that's a regular price nowadays or not, if it's a rare game, but it's pretty expensive here.
I don't know if it's out of print or not. I want to say it is, but don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure, but it's.
I don't know about that. I thought I just saw it on Amazon at like regular. It's $40 USD.
Nice.
So that suggests to me that they're still making it.
$40. I got ripped off. Damn it. All right. Well, anyway. Okay. Well,
let me look. I've got her up right now. It's
yeah, it hasn't been around that
$40.
long. I thought. I mean, I felt like it was only a few years ago that I became aware of it. So it'd be surprising if it was already unavailable.
Yeah, at least in the United States, readily available.
Yeah, no, it's not on Amazon France. It's not. It was at some point. It was up there, but it's not anymore. And sort of the copies that I can order are from used websites, and yeah, the cheapest one is 85 euros used and 100 euros brand new.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yikes, that's rough. But
yes.
We'll see if we can get you in on that.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out.
I think we can work something out.
Even if it's just putting the cards you would need in the mail to you. It's working out where we'll have.
I'm a little wary of anything coming from the United States now, given how much taxes I had to pay for one trading card, as I was telling Steven just a few weeks ago. So
yeah, I know you keep getting surprised by that. You think something's getting shipped to you and it's a done deal, and it shows up at your door with a bunch more owed because of import taxes and stuff. But
yeah, $6 trading card, and I had to pay €9 import taxes. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're sending something to Guillaume, it better be worthwhile, not just one. Don't send just one card.
Yeah, I found a listing on eBay for several, I want to believe, trading cards that I want, all the puzzle cards. And I'm like, okay, it's $25 plus shipping. So I'm looking at maybe, I don't know, $30 extra import shipping. So at this point, I'm like, okay, do I want the cards that bad?
Yeah.
I'm deciding.
Yikes. Ouch.
I think I sent you like a Truth Is Out There edition Eugene Victor Toombs a long time ago, didn't I? And did you get taken to the cleaners on that?
No, you actually sent me quite a bunch of Truth Is Out There cards, and I did not get any import taxes. And I actually had placed 2 eBay orders for 2 trading cards. One with I got import taxes, and the other one they just dropped it in the mailbox, and that was fine. So I don't know. I think the only difference was that on the form that was on the envelope, the one that I got taxes on, it included shipping, so the total was higher. And on the second one that I did not get taxes on, it only included the price of the trading card, and it said shipping cost 0. So it was only a total of $6. So I think maybe not enough to have import taxes on it. So I think it depends on how the seller fills out their form.
Gotcha.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I think, does that cover WinterSlam, David, or are we ready to hop over to a different topic of discussion?
That is WinterSlam from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, I've said it before, clear your calendar. Make sure you have plenty to drink and lots of pizza rolls to keep yourself hydrated and don't get too hangry while you're watching the games. But that's enough about tomorrow's schedule. Let's get back on topic for tonight. We're going to be talking tonight about some business stuff regarding the group that is behind the fan expansions that we're going to be talking about. We do have a Discord, which we'll have a link to in the description. And within that Discord, we do have some smaller groups of people who are working on fan-made expansions, and they do not work in a vacuum. It's not just somebody coming up with cards and throwing them out there, whatever sounds like fun. There is an entire creative process. We all work together as far as devising game effects. And if there's going to be a new keyword, we think that we exercise critical thinking and think that through all the way to the end, and how is it going to affect all these other cards. And when we come up with the effects, we propose those to the group and we talk it out. Even artwork and that sort of thing, screenshots, quotes, whether even the flavor text matches the spirit of the card itself. There's a whole creative process involved in this, and once we finish arguing about effects and all that kind of stuff, then we get into playtesting, and that's when the real debates get going. And we did season 4 already. That took about a year. I think it's not like we were playtesting every single day for 365 days, but we did put a lot of effort into it, a lot of record keeping, a lot of going back and forth and making sure that those cards, not only did they work together within the expansion, but worked with the larger commercially released cards. So to give you just a small taste of what goes on behind the scenes there, and the people you're seeing here on the screen tonight are kind of the core group of that keep it all together, administrating the Discord, and with experts on the game, the mechanics. They know everything inside and out, and someone will come up with an effect. They'll be like, well, someone else will be like, well, that doesn't work with this card, and you're like, I didn't even think of that. So it's a great process. It's a lot of fun. It does take a while, so you have to be patient, but it's a labor of love. We all enjoy it quite a bit. You'll see every designer's heart and soul poured into this. And so whenever you see an expansion come out, know that it wasn't just made off the cuff. There was a lot of thought and a lot of effort put into that. With that having been said, we've been doing this for a few years, and it's time to maybe solidify some of those processes and make it kind of a little more official rather than a ragtag group just kind of putting stuff together. And that kind of segues into, I hope, the next slide here, name change and logo. I don't want to take too much of this because you guys have been working on this more so than I have. So I don't want to talk too much about it and take away from that. But we were known amongst the Discord as the Syndicate. But I think we're looking for something a little different now and a little more official. And I'm going to turn it over to who's going to take over this.
Yeah, well, I can take it from here because name change. I was going to say I kind of forget that we actually were going by the Syndicate. I just took that to be that was our text channel within Discord. So in my head, I was like, we didn't really have any sort of like official moniker that we go by. And it wasn't until I had a phone call discussion with David May, that he threw out the idea, that we are the X-Files CCG Preservation Society. And I just thought that is a really great name. And that is a lot of that encompasses what we are doing. We are keeping the game alive. This very short-lived game. After all these years, we're continuing to expand upon the universe of cards that was decidedly small because it got discontinued when it was only one expansion in, and only the first 3 seasons are represented on those cards. And obviously, for anyone who watches the show knows, there are a lot more seasons and a couple of feature films that followed that. So I thought it would be very fitting that, we kind of solidify things, as David said, and, we adopt that moniker, the X-Files CCG Preservation Society. And we even went through the trouble of, Guillaume went through the trouble mostly of coming up with a logo for it, if you guys favored the idea. So if you guys favored the idea, then we can talk about the logo, which Guillaume came up with a few mock-ups that we could decide amongst which ones we like, and that moniker would appear on some things that we're going to be unveiling later in this broadcast. So Nathan, David Peace, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I'm all about it, and I don't want to spoil too much here because I know there's more coming up. And again, you guys have been working on this more than I have, so I don't want to be talking out of my butt about it. But I think we're kind of at the point here. We've got several years worth of work ahead of us. And I think Guillaume's like, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of expansions that are already close to being ready for playtesting. But that playtesting takes a long time. And I think with the growth of the community and the number of players we have now, it's smart to kind of make things more official. And we've seen that with other games that have gone out of print. There's a Star Trek, the Decipher Star Trek has their own ongoing mission or something like that. And a couple other games have their own kind of unofficial groups that continue to make fan cards. So I think this is great, and I think making it, kind of making a brand is kind of the next logical step. So I'm all for
and
it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, David, because that's also another reason I wanted to pursue this. Because we're not the only game in town with respect to like creating fan-made cards. There are like at least maybe one other out there that we're aware of. But not to speak to competition and everything, but I do want to underscore that like the cards that David, as you mentioned earlier, go through a very rigorous creative process from community feedback to through play testing, and a lot of hard work goes into it. And the other thing that by adopting this is what if we decide to go the route of making a website, which we had talked about doing a while back, but hadn't really talked about in more recent times, Nathan, because we've been so busy working on our respective projects. But I also, in addition to wanting to adopt this moniker and also with this logo, and wanted to look at using that as what would be like part of like the URL, adopt this website, which I think would be a dedicated website to the projects that our community is working on, and then that website would showcase all the projects, and of course it would have things like a log that shows like where are we in with regards to this project, latest updates and stuff like that, and of course have all the images be available, things like that. But anyway, let's hear your take on it. This is obviously like new to you.
Again, I'm all for it, and as the community grows, the need for this kind of thing just kind of organically comes out of that. We all work hard on these things, and we want to be able to have those identified with us. Anybody can make a card for fun, right? But we go through a lot. So when we do that, we want people to know that these cards work with the commercially released. They work together amongst other expansions. And this is the community that uses them, and these are the guidelines that we have all agreed on. And if you would like to play with us, you want to join this community, this is great. This is how we play. These are the things that we've done to grow the game, and we would love to have you. So yeah, having a logo and a very specific name that we all use. I always thought of us as a syndicate, but I'm wondering if maybe I was a conspiracy of one with that. But the syndicate was kind of thrown around, or the name in the Discord was, I think, 46 East 46th Street or something like that, a reference to one of the syndicate in the show. But I think coming up with a standard name that everyone will know us by, and when you hear that name, you're like, oh yeah, I know those cards. Or wait, what's that? What's the website? And the name is common amongst all of that, whether it's whispered in the shadows, or you can find it through the website, because it's logical and makes sense, and people will recognize the logo as well. So I think this is a natural progression from where it started with just the three of us, 3 or 4 of us playing on a Saturday night for fun, to where it is today with 5, 6 expansions planned, and playtesting and all this kind of stuff, art direction and these kinds of things. So yeah, that's wow. For someone who wasn't involved too much with it, I sure do have an opinion. But that's my take on it. I think this is smart. It's the right time for it, and yeah, and I like the name too. So,
What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I do too, David. I'm glad you mentioned the other card games that exist with similar groups that do this. I'm not shy about this. In kind of when I floated this concept, and Stephen, it was I think either while you were working on the season 4 expansion, or shortly after you had started, kind of posting some cards from that I reached out to you and kind of floated this idea of maybe we could do a lot of these, and all have this kind of playtesting body that sort of helps bring these to fruition. I borrowed heavily from the Star Trek Decipher Continuing Committee and the Star Wars CCG committee, both of which have their player bases far surpass what the X-Files has, but they've also had many years to kind of refine this structure, and it started organically for them too, where there's just players that wanted to keep the game going. So I looked at what they were doing and kind of how they were organized, and sort of what we've more recently adopted, where we've kind of got a point person for tournaments, and a point person for design, and a point person for expansion development. That all kind of comes from those groups. So thank them, I guess, for for kind of making this easy for us. We've already kind of got the template in place. So yeah, I think the original idea was totally consistent with what you're suggesting here, where we actually have a name for this thing, and our own kind of branding to convey to players that this stuff is our stuff is high quality, right? You can pick this up and play with it, because there are a lot of, and I'm not knocking people, there are a lot of dream cards floating around out there. I'm not knocking people who do dream cards, I think it's great, like the creativity that people have, and anything that keeps the game alive is kind of cool. So, but this is just that extra, excuse me, that extra, the steps that we take to make sure that like we're being faithful to the original game, and kind of trying to carry that torch. And you know, I don't care who you are and how much time you have. If you're a one person show trying to build like these giant expansions, like it's gonna be that's gonna be rough. I mean, we're a group of, there are probably, I don't know, a good 10 of us maybe that are kind of involved in the playtesting side of this thing now. And we're I don't know, how many games are we in, Steven, to the
14 we've done for
14.
season 5. Is that what yeah. And
Yeah,
we're going to be doing close to that more before we're done.
Yeah, so it's like, for one person to organize all those playtest games and get all the people the cards and actually play the games, you really do need a kind of dedicated group of people to make this happen. So yeah, this is great. I'm glad you guys like kind of took up the mantle on this and are and are sort of putting a name and face to this thing that we have, this monster that we have created, that is now, it's alive.
And with respect to the website, I don't have a whole lot of website making skills. I've been flirting with the idea of giving it a try, but I would of course need some guidance, and so I'm kind of hoping that maybe, like, I don't think any of us here are actually very skilled in it, but maybe if we can get if I can get some guidance on what's the best type of site to use and stuff like that, and ideas on structure and stuff like that.
I think Yost might be able to help with that.
Yeah, it's true. And to say, yeah, Yost is kind of like, he's been the guy who runs his website, which is a great site, by the way. And but it's kind of more of a general use website where it's got the team building feature, it's got the checklists and stuff like that, but it also encompasses cards that are the dream cards that Nathan spoke of, cards that we didn't design, cards that haven't been play tested, that may or may not stand up well in an actual game, which is fine. It serves its purpose as a general use site, but I think it's worth having a separate website to showcase specifically the work that we're doing, and highlights the people involved and the creative processes that go on behind it. And so set aside the cards that that we've done versus the other ones that are out there. But like I said, if you guys have any pointers or maybe point me in the right direction or have ideas, because I wouldn't mind taking point on the website if once I get a chance to figure it out. I've actually already been scanning cards with this scanner that I have, which would obviously be present, the images would be present on the site, so I've got that ability to do here. But obviously it's kind of like building it from scratch is a big undertaking. So
thank you for reminding me on that, Stephen. So I actually have been keeping the original website that I bought a few years ago. So we have xfilesccg.org right now, that we can do whatever we want with whenever we want. And it kind of where I left it. What I was working on is just skinning this as a WordPress site, because they've kind of got all the tools built in, right? So you don't have to have a lot of coding knowledge or anything like that. It's just kind of they give you all the basic tools you need to build it from the ground up. So that's what I was doing. It's just we have to select a host for it, and once we do that, we can just start putting it together and whatever we want on there. And I don't know what kind of content you're thinking of, but I, in my mind, envisioned at least we would have printable sheets of our expansion available, And obviously DAX can get people the physical cards if they want to go that extra step. But if you just want to print and play, we could make that accessible to people. We would have our, I guess I've sort of been dubbed the rule czar or whatever. So when we do our rulings for cards and the rule book 2.0, that stuff would all be up there. And then also I think tournament formats was the other big thing that we could kind of categorize things and have some kind of tournament structure there. So those are the big three in my mind. I don't know if you have other things.
That is part of it. Yes, the rules Bible, as May likes to call it. I really like that moniker for that. Yes. So having all the cards available, printable is fine. Also, like a sort of a log, not like a log or blog or something that kind of shows like, okay, latest updates. Here's what's happening in the, here's we've been working on as of late. So kind of people can go and see like what we're working on in most recent. So kind of like not a daily log, but what we can update as we have, made progress on any of the expansions that we're working on. David P showed me some of the, he sent me links to some of the other websites that kind of like of the same vein. What were they, David? The ones that you sent me?
I believe I sent you the Star Trek ongoing, continuing mission. But there's also Android Netrunner has their own community. I want to say it's called Nisei, but I don't remember. The Star Wars TCG that was made by Wizards of the Coast, they have their own preservation society.
Interesting.
To borrow that name. But yeah, they have their own community. That's actually a really big, thriving community as well, which is surprising because I don't think that game was nearly as popular. But they've been coming out with expansions to go along with the movies and some of the expanded universe and so forth. So this is by no means a new thing. And like Nathan said, a lot of people have kind of laid the groundwork and kind of have the roadmap. So I think making a couple friends among those groups might be a smart move to kind of get some help.
And I also want to point out, like, we also have Simon Goodman in the Facebook community. Actually, I think he's in the Discord group as well. He's got a website too that's just dedicated just to the commercial release cards. And that is a great website. I know Guillaume uses it probably I go there every day. I think Guillaume, you probably do too. I like the aesthetic of it. I'm not saying we go with that exact aesthetic, but a lot of like what I've envisioned with the card images being available, something along those lines where you can actually go and have all the card text be visible with like a separate text box area, because it's hard to read some of those card images or the text on some of those card images, but also be able to like search through cards, filter them out, and so it can kind of also maybe be used for deck building, although we have Yoast site for that as well. But kind of the same vein, like it's a great reference site, like as Guillaume and I use it regularly. So something along those lines, but with the stuff built in that you mentioned, Nathan, the rules Bible, the printable sheets, like that kind of stuff. And so again, nothing like definitive, but kind of more of like, because like I said, I don't know anything about like website design. So it's like trying to figure out a .org versus a .com, what tools to be using, and also wanting you guys to weigh in, because obviously it's something that we're all going to be involved in. So we should all have a say in like how we decide to go about designing it.
I think CCG.org is great.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just said I would be from a 1990s perspective. Old AOL dial-up. I'll be happy to consult. But it's. I had to do something after this, and so I spent a few years in web development.
Oh, excellent. And Guillaume, go ahead.
No, absolutely, go first.
I was just saying that. Nathan, I think the xfilesccg.org address is perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
My money has
And-
not been wasted.
Yeah, because I was and actually. Do you mind if I ask, like, what is that? Because that's the thing. Another thing I didn't know is like free website versus cost website. I don't. What is
So just the domain has been. I just have the domain part, and it costs, I think, somewhere between 15 and 20 a year to keep that. Now, when you add on hosting, obviously your cost is going to increase depending on, and we're not going to have a ton of traffic, so it's not like we'll be scaling stuff, but hosting is going to be an expense too. And so one thing we could possibly do is look at organizing what's called and this is going to be the lawyer nerd here, we could organize a 503c7 social club, which is a IRS, and this is how I believe the Star Trek and Star Wars games are organized too. But basically, it's an IRS recognized tax exempt organization, and we would all just contribute a small amount to cover hosting costs and that kind of thing. And for our small group, you're talking about each one of us would probably owe like $5 for the year or something like that. I mean, it's not a great expense. So.
And this is based in the Bahamas, right?
Yes, of course. Lots of offshore money changing hands and
offshore bank accounts. Yeah.
So if I donate like $5 million, that would be tax-free, sheltered in a foreign country.
Yes, David. If you want to use this group for money laundering, that's fine with me.
Whoa! Whoa!
I mean, it's like
that.
it's kind of been a front for that all along, right? Oops.
So, well, we're really poor at it. We just wind up spending money on boxes of old cardboard. So,
just to build on the potential, if that direction does occur, as one possible example, once you've kind of got your 501c, companies like Wix gives a huge discount to their platform.
Is that right? Okay.
I like them already.
Yes. So there are some opportunities that exist for a nonprofit organization. Still, you got to get them while they last. But that does create both a level of protection, because I'm familiar with those other historical preservation societies. Like I said, if it's a CCG back there from the 90s, that's when I was playing every day. So yeah, there's some options there. Again, there's a little bit of involvement. Back to the lawyer speak, there's a little bit of involvement depending on where, but once you kind of get through that process, there is additional opportunity, cost effective, not to say that you have to use that tool, but it is a very popular and robust tool as far as website development. And a lot of the work that you guys are doing, I want to compliment again, even just looking at our PowerPoint presentation as we proceed forward, there is a certain level of skill that's been demonstrated in this group. There's some ability here naturally, whether we realize it or not. So again, kind of everyone sharing a little piece of the load. There's quite a bit here already that could, I know as we're about to see, and I haven't even seen it, but I have confidence in the capabilities, both intellectually, artistically, and maybe even now entrepreneurially, in an endeavor such as this. And again, this was all organic. I like that. I've watched what I perceive to be organic, and never forget again where you've come from, right? Those humble beginnings, And again, it's just don't lose that. But yeah, there's some opportunity, as you guys continue to talk about what are the options. There's a little financial commitment, but again, there's also potentially some relief that comes from due diligence. So I'll stop there. So
Excellent.
I didn't know this is what we were going to talk about. Cool.
Yeah.
I've been doing some math here on the side while you guys have been talking, and if we each put in $1.573 million apiece, we can purchase Fox from Walt Disney, and all of this will be solved.
Nice.
Just 1.5? Wow.
Yeah. Only.
Well,
right
Should
before
we,
the Buffy release.
Yeah. Should we go to the logos?
By all means, let's look at the first proposal
All right.
here.
Yeah. And we have Guillaume to thank for putting these together. This is awesome.
Love it.
Basically, there's only just one logo. The other ones are just variations on whether we want it to be black and white, or all black or white, or depending also on which document or which website or whatever where it's going to be. So the idea was that the main one would be the color one with the green background, kind of the green and red are reminiscent of the colors at the back on the cards, and then the other one are just variation.
And yeah, and I know there's going to be a place, as we'll see coming up, for like the black and white version, when we have something that is only going to be in black and white format. Won't get into that too much because I don't want to give it away. But yeah, David, Nathan, even Mr. May, like, what do you think of the main one that Guillaume put together?
And you can say you don't like it. I won't be offended.
Yeah.
Nathan, go ahead.
Cry. These are just more danglies. This is spiritually correct.
Are we jangling keys in front of you, Dave?
I'm just, again, if we're just talking again from the 97, right? Something that could have and potentially would have come off the presses is the stamp, right? Is the treatment, and again, you kind of have the style guide there, so not just presenting one color, but the different contrasting depending on what the application is, and I'm not going to be mean about the primary one. I won't speak on behalf of 1013 and approval process. It may have had a tough time, but so did everything. But eventually it would have got through.
Okay. And it's a good thing we don't need their approval or care about their approval at this point.
So, but no more humor. I'll be serious. No, it's great.
I like the color one. I think that would look really great on a website, up in the corner. And then, the black and white. I like. I'm speaking only for myself, of course, but I like the top row middle for like documents and that kind of thing for like generic use.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon for a corporation to have multiple styles for different uses. If ultimately we decide to use one of these as maybe a stamp on our cards that sets aside our fan made cards versus
that is something. I'm glad you're saying that now, because again, this is kind of like why I wanted you get like, and Guillaume too, we were wanting you guys to weigh in on this, because the idea here is possibly, and obviously this is something we'd have to run by Dax as well, and obviously a bit more design going into it. If we decide to have this on the backs of all of the cards that get printed from our expansions, possibly. not just on the website, not just on the other documents that are coming up on the slideshow presentation, but also on the backside of all the cards, potentially. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. The bottom two logos as well. I like, when we have playtest games on our channel, we can include these, especially the transparent logos, so you can see, it's not taking up too much space on the screen. But these are good. These are all good indicators that what we're doing is associated with that, and also it's marketing, right? This is we can send people to our website. I'm even picturing, like, we've talked about putting together starter packs, for new players that we can just straight up, we could sell those for a nominal cost on the website.
Yeah,
include them, in just a little cardboard packaging with this logo on it.
Yeah.
We could do other stuff, like, if we want to contribute cards to the Preservation Society and sell them through our website storefront to offset the costs of hosting and all of that stuff, that's something we can do too. So now that's obviously beyond the logo stuff, but I think this is a really good foundation for some of the places we want to take the game, and really, I know Steve and you especially, along with Mike, are sort of focused on really, truly, like, getting at some of the prototype stuff and how the game developed, and doing, interviews with Dave May and others who were involved in playtesting and game design. So I think both the name is well thought out and captures, kind of all of our collective aims on this thing, which is to sort of appreciate the history of the game and help keep it alive.
Once we decide on a web address, would we want to include that in the logo?
I think that, well, maybe depending on which document, and again, just thinking out loud, but I think, including the address inside the logo would be too small, and then you would not be able to see it. But putting the logo and then putting the address underneath it. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options, starting with this component. Just, again, this is equivalent to your swoosh. And then because you have that swoosh, this is the mark. This is the key branding component. And then, of course, you're going to associate that, just imagine back in the day, business cards, letterhead. We used to have envelopes, but we don't really do that anymore. But yeah, this would be evident potentially on a variety of application. But it would always draw people's attention back to who and what, right? So that's the key. So yeah, again, as a foundation piece, it does exactly what you want it to do. And then, of course, you'll mix and match it depending on what the application, and whether it's promotion or advertisement, or just, again, brand identity, brand reinforcement. Like you said, the transparencies where, if there was again, I still like the syndicate. I was just here barely long enough to almost think I was part of it, even though we're retiring that today. So see, I thought that's what you guys were called too. You're all really cool stuff out of the shadows. I was like, wow, I want to be cool. But ultimately, whether it's YouTube, whatever, that kind of down there in the bottom of the screen, how they sneak the powered by StreamYard in there, that this just kind of shows up. As a matter of fact, it's kind of, I don't want to say where's Waldo, right? But it is cool where you can find this thing. And besides just blatantly present, but there's a subtlety to it. Like I said, it is consistent with both brands, with all things considered, the show, the game, the people, right? It is consistent. So
Yeah. And I agree. I had in mind that the Syndicate would be the name too, but when I see what Guillaume and Steven have put together here, the Syndicate, it doesn't really. Okay, are we a dark, shadowy group manipulating things, or are we?
Spell it out.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we are.
you're not going to get a 501c called the Syndicate.
Right.
That's a little too hard to bridge. How do you benefit the community that you're in?
So do you want to join? Just think about the casual player, right? Somebody who hops on one of our channels to watch a game. Do you want to? Would you rather be involved in something called the Syndicate, or would you rather be involved with Preservation Society? I think it really captures what we're after here.
It captures the mission.
Yeah.
I thought her name was Purity Control, so I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, way
Well,
better
that's-
than Purity Control.
Yeah.
Which is even
It's just
more
the server
confusing.
name. Yeah. That we should.
It was a front.
What's really going on here, people?
Hey, speaking of which, Zeus Storage is going to get a shout out in the season 1, 2, 3 expansion.
As it
so,
should.
Yeah.
It should, yes.
Speaking of fronts, so
And Zeus Genetics when Guillaume gets to
Yes.
season 8.
Yes.
So yeah, Guillaume, I think actually StreamYard does allow to put in a logo when you have the paid version of it. So yeah, I'm gonna use this starting in my other games. Now that we've approved, now it sounds like it's good, right? Everyone's cool with it. This logo, no tweaks needed. I don't think. Does anyone feel like it needs anything more, or is it does it justice?
I love
Gangly
it.
approved.
Cool.
yeah.
Put that as a seal of approval, right, Nathan?
Yeah, I think so. I don't. I'm just, talking about the core logo. I think the variations are all super useful in different contexts. So this is really well done, Guillaume. And this was you, Guillaume, that put the logo together.
Yes.
All right, kudos
Excellent
on
work.
that. Yeah, it looks amazing, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's
Cholera weighed in on it though, so Cholera gets some. Cholera's like, "What about me?"
Yeah.
I hope
He was-
too. I
he was
batted the
around.
mouse off the desk.
Yeah, he was around. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's consider that concluded issue, right?
Yes.
Let's move on to the next slide. Well done, everybody, on that. Next is the
Oh,
website
we already
rulebook, which
talked
we've
a
already
little
been
bit
kind
about
of
that
touching
already.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that was coming up as a separate slide. It should have all been one slide.
It's easy to kind of get carried away a little bit.
But yeah,
One thing
we
leads
can
to
call
another.
Nathan's already purchased this, so it's xfilesccg.org. So yeah, and that's fine because it's obviously shorter to type than xfileccg preservationsociety.org. So I'm all for
Mhm.
shorter URLs because obviously we're going to be sharing them everywhere. But yeah, the website itself will, when you get to the homepage, will obviously be have some variation of the logo, the fonts, and whatever that we've seen, and yeah, the rule book as well. So Nathan, you've been keeping track of like some of the rulings that we've made, right?
Yeah, we've kind of got a running log, but we don't know what to do with it at this point, right? So, and I was thinking about how to put this together. So I think there are going to be two kind of stumbling blocks for us, I guess. The trick is going to be to identify when a particular card that we're talking about kind of necessitates a look at a rule revision versus a ruling about how a card applies in a particular situation, right? And so when it comes to the rule book, I'm thinking in those broad strokes. What is the framework for the game, right? And we will have our own sort of back, I guess, if you will, or catalog of card rulings in specific instances that we can refer back to. And as an example, like Magic the Gathering has it's called Gatherer, and it has a image of every card ever made, and it's like 50,000 cards or whatever it is. It's got the card image, it's got legality, so what tournaments can you play that card in? Can you play it in Modern, Standard, Commander, all those different formats? And then it's got underneath the card, here are our specific rulings with the date of the ruling on it, how that works. So that's how I envision that working. So specific cards, and then the rule book is more focused on making sure that there is a framework that the cards can break, because we all know that the card text trumps the rules. So there is, one unique thing about CCGs is the rule book is only the rule book until you get a card that says tells you can do something else. So that's, and I'll shut up and see if anyone wants to react to that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I was thinking, just you have a separate page for each card, and when you're playing the game and you have a question, you can just go to that specific page and you'll see every question that has ever been asked about that specific card and every ruling that has been done. So that's a great reference point. So I think that's the way to go, as opposed to having like a full page full of text with like kind of FAQ.
Right.
You'd have.
And you're just control Fing and trying to find the right keywords.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Something searchable. We should be able to, like, if I have a question about Langley or UTL, I should be like, maybe to be able to search, like, okay, unexplainable time loss, and pulls up a page where we have all of the information about the card and like what the rulings are with respect to all these different scenarios, and UTL being one of those that has had a number of scenarios thrown out. Well, what about this? What about that? And so, I think a page dedicated to each card would be the best way to go. And it's just like the page just encompasses that card's information, as opposed to just a wall of FAQs that you got to scroll down and maybe do a keywords like browser find in order to get to the answer you need. I think, separate page for each card, and each card should have be able either browsable or searchable. Maybe both, actually, because as a librarian, I'm a fan of both browsing and searching options whenever I have to review or evaluate any online resources.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I can't post the comment on the YouTube stream, but in our private chat, I just posted a link to a Magic card as an example to the Gatherer database to show you what that looks like.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. There. Exactly. Yes. That is exactly what I was picking. Yes. Perfect.
There it is in the comments.
And advanced search options too. Great. Yeah. Very much what I was imagining. Like, even though I didn't have a firm idea, but this, if I had to really this is great. And I like that there's these tabs, like you got or printed. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, so that's a good point, Stephen. So the Oracle text is considered the quote unquote official text of the card, regardless of what is printed on the card, which is the printed tab will tell you what's printed on it. The Oracle text will be the official card text. And what's the difference, you ask? Well, sometimes the rules committee for Magic makes changes to a card's language, so it does the errata thing.
So it's an errata tab. Okay,
exactly.
So Oracle is the errata, printed is what was the mistake.
Exactly. 99% of the time they're going to be the same text, but they do change sometimes.
So I think Langley might be one example of that.
Let's talk
probably about I hope the only example, but maybe I might. No. Actually, I take it back. There are 3 cards in the 1013 expansion for which this for this format would be fittable. The Stupendous Yappy, I think Flesh Sculpting, and I think Skinner's Wedding Ring. We would need that for those, because it says keyword conspiracy when it's supposed to be like conspiracy activator. So as an example, I think those 3 cards would definitely benefit from that, as well as like Langley, if you want to put that one under there as well.
Right. Yeah, there are a handful of cards that are screaming out for some minor tweaks to their activators. And
I like it.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of that format, and I like that when you scroll down. Excuse me, I was gonna sneeze there, but I'm. Excuse me. Yeah, and then the rulings. I like the way it's dated. It's got like it spells it out. But yeah, I would say go even further. Like like in addition to like what the ruling states, but then maybe also have like some scenario. Oh, did I lose my? Oh, thank you for sharing that, David. Yeah, but also have like explain like in the situation of like what happens in this situation and what happens in this situation, because like with UTL, it's like, well, what about like, can I play this in the briefing? Can I play this on agents in the hospital? And like kind of spell out all those different variations of it. But I guess that's kind of what those rulings there are covering. What each of those, because I didn't actually read them because I wouldn't understand what they're talking about.
yeah, it wouldn't help you to read them, Steve.
Yeah, I've never played the game.
But I post that just to highlight the concept in my head for what the website would look like.
I'm a fan. A little more color in the background, obviously. I would say like different aesthetics, but otherwise,
we can make it look cooler.
Yeah, and I think maybe incorporate some of like the colors that Guillaume had put together in that logo, or branch out from there. But yes, framework wise, I think this is a great example.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it's like it's not a lot going on, and it makes it looks like a very like easy to navigate website. So, which is what you want. You don't want to make it too complicated.
Awesome. Website and rulebook. We have talked that all out, because the next slide goes away from business and into expansions. So unless there's anything else to talk about as far as the Preservation Society logos, website rulebook, have we exhausted everything?
I think this is a good job.
Yeah.
Off point. At least we're like our mindsets are in it for like this is the path we want to go down. And the main thing is going to be like trying to find or like I think Nathan's got the .org already in place, but then it's kind of like we'll as time allows for us to like each like give our thoughts on like what we want it to look like, and of course how to for the actual design itself. Nathan, is this something you're skilled at, or are you able? Do you know enough about it that you take the reins on it, or do you think?
Nathan, you just got voluntold.
On the design itself, or do you?
Well, I've never built a website. So,
yeah. Okay. So you're in the same boat as I am.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have looked at the WordPress format to kind of understand what is involved, but. I'll say this: I think to do it well would involve investing a lot of hours to figure out how to make that work on my end, and I don't know that I have the time. So
yeah, Wizards has lots of full-time people to make their website as good as it is, but
in the short term, Stephen, I will be happy to consult. I can send you a port. So
what? Sorry, you cut out there. You send what?
Oh, I said I'd be happy to consult. I could send you a portfolio.
Oh well, I mean, your resume is there's
a whole interview process involved with this, Dave.
Yeah, I was like, you're hired.
We're not going to just give this to anybody.
No. As it was already stated, there are many hours that are involved in this, and I'm usually a busy guy. But all the skill sets are present. So
almost, we just need website design in there represented here.
I don't know if this counts, but I've built quite a few SharePoint sites, and the architecture is similar.
Hmm.
So I might be able to help with that.
Yeah.
And I do know a few people that have retail sites, kind of home-based business retail
Yeah.
sites that might be able to help me out with any goofy details also. So we've got
Yeah, so that's the other thing too.
jumping
Like
off
I don't.
point.
Yeah, because I know Nathan had the idea about like selling like some of the loose cards and like if is that something that's doable on the .org, Nathan?
Yeah. I'll
Sorry,
just
I
stop
missed
there.
your question.
I got you. As far as the dots anything anymore, that's kind of like a guideline or recommendation. There is no legality. .org by definition was an organization, usually implied a nonprofit status,
Right.
whereas .com was a company. Right now we got whatever
Commercial.
you want, so it's all out the window now. So there is no control mechanism. Again, when we talk about commerce, and again, originally Nathan mentioned that, like everybody just back in the day, and back in the day is just a couple weeks ago, if not a couple years ago, WordPress was the standard. And so people were building on that, and that's a very stable, content management platform, right?
Okay.
There are potentially others. The thing about those particular platforms is that they tend to be more open source, meaning that there's different modules so that you low code, no code. You don't have to do a lot of programming these days. We're talking about shopping carts and galleries. There's a lot of different things that got mentioned here so far in a short period of time. So we can navigate some of that and then see what we are actually capable of, and kind of like with everything else, have probably a phased or tiered approach in that deployment.
Okay.
Yeah, but nowadays everything's kind of set up with the concept of going to market with or without sellable products. But I would probably encourage, if money is involved and the potential for the 501c exists, that will go a long way in possible protection, right? Because of the branding component, right? Not that anybody would ever come back on the mechanics. It is still the mouse. And, we're not necessarily grandfathered before the mouse, right? As other people who might have been working with Lucas products were grandfathered before the mouse, right? So we do kind of pre-exist. And if you don't understand the mouse, then see me afterwards.
Well, I'll be honest, that was in the back of my head too. It's nice to have an insulating layer between us individually.
Yeah.
And
I have secretly been fired from many jobs. I don't know if it's a secret anymore.
Not anymore. To our one live viewer who's joining us, thank you for joining us. By the way,
Oh, I think that's just me. I was
did you
I
open
had
the
the
browser?
Yeah,
I'm still alive, but yeah, definitely, I would be amiss now to let you wander off without at least offering. And I'm kind of now, I got some skin in the game here again.
you do, as we're gonna see shortly.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm self-serving. That's all.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We're all done with business now. We're feeling good about it.
Yeah, I want to talk expansions.
All right. Let's get right into it then. Fan-made expansion update.
Team and I have been sitting on this for a little while, and we are just eager to show you guys what we got.
So with that, we're going to start with Season 4
Okay.
expansion.
All right. So if anyone who has been following along with the videos and Discord, yes, Season 4, we did wrap up like over a year ago. and it's a very serviceable expansion. I'm very happy with it. But looking back on the games that we've played since we've done playtesting, we have seen a number of games played, and it's a 175 card expansion, and it's a lot of cards. And we only had 4 people playtesting this back when we were doing this. We don't have like the larger double-digit number that we have now. So there are cards that I notice that we don't see regularly used, and it's because a lot of them are just so very, very hyper specific, and they're so niche that the makeup of the game doesn't really facilitate, because you don't know what your opponent's bringing in terms of their agents or their decks. So some of these cards, especially as I learn now, the stuff I know now versus what I knew then is vastly different. And I know now that conspiracy cards limited to one specific agent are a bad idea. So Guillaume, Nathan, and David Peace, any of you guys working on expansions coming up, definitely, I strongly encourage you, please avoid conspiracy cards that target one agent. It's one thing when you had just the commercially released agents, but every expansion we are bringing is bringing more and more agents into this, to the point that it's impossible to include a card that just affects like Skinner and to hope that your opponent is going to have Skinner on that team going into it. It's ridiculous. It was fine when you had just like the commercial cards, and you can have those killer cards that are limited to those few agents, or like Skinner adopts the company line, fine. But we are broadening this universe of cards, so those are very, very much like, I mean, they're novelty, great. They're faithful to what happens in the episode, fine. But definitely I encourage you, don't use them, because no one's ever going to want to play with those. And there are several of them in this season 4 expansion that, if I could go back and do it, I would eliminate those ones from being included. And guess what? That's what I'm doing. I'm going back and redoing it. And I have a very, very, very heartfelt thanks to Dax for entertaining this for me, because I know for him, he was like, oh God, I thought I was done with this, but now he's dragging me back into this. So, and it's not just those, it's just not a few cards that are going to be reworked here. Like, there's a lot going on with this. So, yes, the Season 4 expansion is going to get a second edition, just like how the Premier Edition got the Truth Is Out There edition, which came out after the Premier Edition was released. And 30 cards from the Premier Edition were taken out, and then 30 new ones were included in the Truth Is Out There edition. 30 different cards. And so I'm not replacing 30 cards in this 175 set. I'm looking at maybe 5 or 6, possibly. I've got 5 already written with Guillaume and Dave Meyer. I want to thank for both of you guys for taking some of these ideas. And we'll probably do a couple play tests on those. Don't have to do a hardcore play test with a bunch of people, because we're only looking at 5 cards. And ideally, some of the issues with some of these card effects may very well get addressed in Season 5, right, Guillaume? So we probably won't have to really do a hard, fast playtest for these cards. But nevertheless, same process applies. Everyone's going to weigh in on them and give thoughts on a cost and stuff like that. Or does it need some different activator, etc., etc. Mostly looking at bluffs and events are going to get swapped out. But the not just with those cards, we're also going to be doing a color change. So the Season 4 expansion, the first edition, is printed with the same color and template that the Scully set is. And I think it would be more serviceable to this expansion if every expansion that we're doing has a different color template to it that makes the cards more distinguishable. Different graphics too, because that's also what's going to come into the second edition. There's going to be different graphics that distinguish these cards from the ones in the Scully set, graphics and color. And as Guillaume, thankfully, I love this slide that you put together, because as you can see, this is the color that we're going to go with for the new template. It's sort of a rusted blood color almost, and I really like it too, because it very much stands out. And it also, like, I know, Guillaume, you're working thought process behind the color scheme for all of the forthcoming expansions is that it's going to match the color on the original DVD releases for the show, and I think that's a great idea. That's a great great way to follow along with each of the colors that we're adopting. So, and the face card that is going to represent each expansion, as you see the face card in the front here, that is going to be the colored template that gets used on the cards for each expansion. That's what you're going to see with Season 5. That's what you're going to see with the ones that Guillaume's using and so forth. And I think that's just a great internal consistency to adopt. It's just something that we had not occurred to us so early on, because as Nathan, as you pointed out, back then it was just me doing a few card ideas, throwing them on Facebook, and then our committee slowly formed, and now we're getting a chance to solidify some things, some more refine on what's been done. So yes, so the cards that are part of Season 4's first edition are still going to be valid. Nothing's getting eroded, nothing's getting changed. Everything still is going to, you can still use those cards. So you can order a set if you haven't already. And if you have a set of Season 4 first edition, great, you can still use it. But here is going to be an opportunity to get those cards with the new graphics, the new color, and possibly new backside. If we decide to pursue the idea of using that logo, for instance, on the back of those cards and beyond, that'll be also different. But you also get those distinct cards that, again, just like the Truth Is Out There edition has unique cards, you're going to get a chance to own those too. So if you already have the first edition of Season 4, fine. You can also just order the unique cards by themselves. You don't have to order a brand new set if you don't want to, which is like $75 depending on where you are. You can reach out to Dax and be like, hey, can I get the 5 or 6 cards that are unique to the second edition? And he'll be able to fulfill that for you. I've already asked him. He's like, yeah, that'd be totally fine. So you can get them all that way. So yeah, there is something to be said about it. There's also going to be a promo card too, because we've now decided that 180 cards is going to be the number for each of these season-long expansions. Nathan, yours is going to be different because it's a revisit. But what Guillaume and I are going to be releasing with each of our season-long expansions is going to be 175 cards plus 4 promos and the face card. And there was 1 less card in the first edition of the Season 4 expansion. So we're going to get the full 180 with the second edition as well. So that's being corrected in there. So that's what you're getting with this second edition that Dax and I are working on. We've been going over graphics and colors. He just got a printed version of the cards with this color on it, and it looks great. Because a lot of times when Dax does these templates on his computer, it's like, sure, it looks great on the screen. And Guillaume, you know this. When you order the printed cards and then you see the color as it is in print, sometimes it may not look as good as it did on the screen, right?
Yeah, I found, especially with the first orders that I placed, that the cards always come out darker than I want them to, and also the colors are more saturated. So I always remember the Scully set card that I ordered, and Scully looks like she has a bad sunburn on the Make the Deal card. So I had to redo all of that.
Yeah.
I had to desaturate the coloring, and I had to brighten everything. But yeah, you definitely want to print out a few test cards before ordering a whole set.
And so Dax just got those today with that color on there. And yeah, it's fantastic. I already knew that was going to be the case because, Guillaume, you've already ordered them. So you already have them in print. So you already know what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so that's by and large what you're getting. So yeah, you can get the individual unique cards that are going to be released. And I'll be obviously revealing those to you guys for review. Dax has made them up. He hasn't yet, because right now we're just trying to get all the stuff with the template factored in and refined, and then we'll obviously be going in and swapping out those cards that I don't really want to have be a part of this second edition with some brand new ones. And this is great because also we're going to have some other images from the 4th season, some images that I really like but didn't get a chance to include in there the first time around. So we're going to have some different images, different card effects and stuff like that. Some will tie into Season 5, which is even better. So yeah, so I'm really excited about this second edition that we're going to be hopefully finishing real soon. Ideally, while we're still playtesting Season 5, Dax will have this to work on. But questions, or should we move on to the next one?
I have a question. You said that the color matches the DVD.
Yes.
What's a DVD?
How young are you? Do you need to be carbon dated or what? I thought everyone here was 40. Well, maybe not Guillaume, not quite, but close enough.
Yeah, this year I will
be 40 again.
I know, right?
So is it like Laserdisc? Because that's
like
though
those
we had
big
beta
huge
tape.
ones.
Yeah, really big.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
Oh, I have a comment. So go with your question first.
Okay. My question is and I'm trying to remember. So are all 6 of the cards you're removing cards that specifically reference a investigating player on a conspiracy card?
Not most of them are, but
Most
there's also some RP ones that are specific to one agent that have not really gotten used, or because they're maybe not as appealing as like what we got with, say, Skinner Chooses a Side or Krychek Possessed. So those ones are out, but the ones like the Bluff hanging in the balance, which only affects Mulder, the Bluff Relatively Safe House that only affects Krychek. There's also a CP event, Krishkow's Revelation, that only affects Mulder. So all of those are getting out. They're getting out.
So I'll give you a little pushback on the players' specific conspiracy cards. I think I'm actually okay with them if they target like a main character. So the Krycheks and Mulders and Scullys and Skinners, I'm good with those. Less so when you get into the minor characters, because I think they're less apt to be used as part of a main team. And maybe I might shift on that as we get further into expansion development and open up, more agents. But I think as a, and I, this is without respect to what this is your expansion. You do what you like with it. But I think I would hate to take away some of that creative space as a categorical rule.
I'm not saying that's a rule.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that was what I said earlier. That was me going on my soapbox and making a strong suggestion for all that's coming forward.
Because I like cards like shutting down the X-Files, which is
at least that's two agents. That's two agents. So don't limit it to just one. If you 2, 3 more, there you go, fine. But one agent, especially when you have an ever expanding pool of agents with every expansion that's getting released. Just the odds that even Mulder and Scully are going to appear on the team with all of these other expansions, it might be decidedly less. So for me, it's more of like those cards that are being phased out. They're still going to be available in the first edition. If you want to order the first edition from Dax, they'll be included in there. So they're not going away. It's just that they're not going to be part of the second edition. Much like how those 30 that they still exist with the Premier Edition. They're just not part of the Truth Is Out There edition. So it's going to get a chance for me to just throw in some sort of like revisit season 4, but not to the same extent that you're revisiting seasons 1, 2, and 3. Just throwing a few extra card ideas in there that I think that would be make it a more serviceable expansion. And also just so that I look back on season 4 and I'm even happier with the final product.
Well, I guess. David, go.
I want my Holly card so she can beat up Skinner.
Well, that's season 5.
Are you?
Yeah. That's season 5. That's not even part of this. And hopefully, I won't even have to do this with season 5 because we've obviously, I've learned a lot since doing season 4. So I don't expect I would have to even do a second edition for season 5. I probably won't want to. I think
going forward, I think since season 4 was the first expansion, and as you mentioned, Steven, there are things that if we were to do season 4 now, we would not be doing, or maybe we would say, okay, this needs to be corrected. So I agree that at first, I have to say, I was like, why do it now? And you've won me over, so I am fully on board with that second edition. But I think we have to make sure going forward that the expansion that we release are the final versions, and we will say, okay, season 5, season 6, etc. What you are getting, we are not going to reprint and change things that will require you to purchase new cards. I think it's fine for season 4. As I said, since it was the first one that we did, and there is precedent with the Truth Is Out There, but yeah, especially with so many expansions coming out, I think once we say they're done, we have to make our peace with it, even if we find maybe a few things 3 or 4 years later that we wish we would have done different. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
we have to live with that.
finality is a good thing.
You just got to take those lessons into the next
but
one.
yeah, but I think it's a good idea for what you're going to do with that second edition. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, in that vein, I'll ask, and I think I know what your answer is going to be, but instead of replacing cards in this expansion, and I do like the new other graphical edits and color schemes like that, so I'm not dissuading you from doing a second edition on this. But instead of replacing cards, is there an opportunity to work those cards into maybe a mini expansion further down the line or something like that?
As like a different episode, or
like season 4 revisited?
Well, I'm hesitant to call every time we go back to a season a revisiting of it. I think that's fine for the 1 through 3 because of the nature of the commercial cards. But I've floated a few times that we have like categories of episodes, the monster of the weeks, or you can even get more specific than that and say demons, serial killers, UFOs. I think there are some opportunities for time travel. I think there are some opportunities for mini expansions here that transcend the seasonal structure. And we can revisit like episodes we've already worked on within that context, right? We can make some new cards for these episodes without having to do the whole, well, this is season 5 and we're just going to do season 5. So I'll leave that out there just as a pitch, I guess, for expansion. And they don't have to be 170 cards. We can do expansions that are 20 cards, and it's a lot less heavy lifting on that if we want to go to the more sort of tighter themed kind of things.
Like a field office crime lab.
Yeah, that's a good example.
I think for mini expansions, I'm in favor of them. But if like the field office crime lab, if they offer maybe a new game mechanic that makes them unique, as opposed
they have to have a purpose.
If we're doing a themed expansion, but it's just cards that could have been in the main expansions, I'm less a fan of that idea. New game mechanic, sure, that warrants a new expansion, a new mini expansion. But as we move forward, and as we will see in the final slide, there are already so many expansions that it's like at some point, I wouldn't want even us to get lost in how many expansions and what goes where and who does what. And it's like, I think you have the main season expansions, some side expansions that we will see later, and also,
and because there's only so many colors we can use for these different templates, right?
Yeah, and also maybe there are also so many images that we can use. Steven and I, when we worked on what we are going to show you, sometimes we struggled because we wanted to use images, but those images were already used in the card that were released, and it's like, okay, we have this new idea for a card, but can we even do it because there is no new picture available, basically?
Right.
But yeah, all of the
good thoughts.
Yeah.
And before we move on, I think that's kind of wrapping it up. But I really am a big fan of the different color background. I was teasing about the DVDs and stuff earlier, but when I'm setting up a game with someone, I say, okay, well, what cards are legal? okay, well, we'll use commercially released, we'll use season 4 and whatever. The way I sort my cards is I keep season 4 separate from everything, Fight the Future separate from everything, and having the different color helps me sort those things out and keep those kind of separate in my collection. So when we do decide, okay, well, we're going to do season 4, season 7, and the Lone Gunman expansion, it's easy for me to go to those quickly rather than, oh, now I got to find them all in the events category, or I got to go to all the ages. So I really like this color coding. I think it makes it slightly different. I'm used to that kind of thing with Pokemon. They always had, each expansion had its own little special symbol in the bottom corner. Oh, we just lost Mike. I was just getting ready to introduce him there, but that denoted the expansion. So I really like the color. At first I was like, man, now I have to buy season 4 all over again. But
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't have to, but I'm gonna. But anyway, I really liked when I saw that. I was a huge fan. That's all I got.
Yeah, and so first edition to me, it can almost be like, yes, it's a trial run. It was by and large, it's a successful trial run. But now knowing that what we're going to do is adopt this internal consistency with the colors and the templates and stuff like that. That's that's like, to me, like, it would almost be like, well, I don't want to miss out on that opportunity to provide that to people with the season 4 set as well. The opportunity is there, but again, I don't want anyone to have to be like, oh damn, I bought, like, some people bought 3 sets of season 4 already. That's great, but yeah, and you can keep using it. But yes, there's going to be another promo card that's going to be part of the second edition, as well as like maybe 5 reprints, but definitely a promo in there. So you can get Dax to send you that as well, and any of those other ones that are going to be added in there. So yeah, but at a smaller cost, so you don't have to buy the whole set. I'm going to have like multiple sets of it because they're beautiful to look at, and so I'll be very happy when this is sent to the printers later this year.
Mike just messaged me. He had a little bit of a power dip there, so he'll be coming back in just a minute. But
Excellent.
You say new promo cards, foil?
Well, foil, as you know, is pretty expensive to print, but that's up to you, and you work that out with Dax. And if you want a foil set, by all means, go for it. I would love to have one, but I'm like, oh gosh, even my wallet is
a full foil set. Yeah, it's too expensive. Yeah, for each set I order 18 foil cards.
And
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
just for the 18 cards, it's like, I don't know. I think it's 30 euros for the 18 cards. I think it's significantly higher than the regular cards. So I couldn't imagine ordering a full set. And yeah, but they're cool to look at.
Yeah, no denying it. Yeah, maybe I'll just do 18 and that would be it. But yeah, beyond that, no.
Well, you already have some season 4 foils.
I do, so I won't have to. I'm talking about season 5 and onwards. Right. Yeah.
Cool. Mike, like I said, he's having a little bit of a power issue over there. That's unfortunate because the next slide is.
Okay. I thought I was expecting season 5, but yes, because 5 comes before the movie. But why don't you just skip to 5 and then we can we'll come back to the slide when he gets back. Yeah, excellent. So so here's season 5, and again you got the face card there, which is sort of it's blue, again, matches the season 5 DVD, and so that's the color we're going to be using when we get to the final product. Currently, like the ones that the drafter you're working with are purple, cool color and all, but that's going to be later on. Season 8 is going to have a purple color, right, Guillaume? Yes. So season 5 currently playtesting right now, as you see by the progress bar Guillaume has at the bottom, which is really cool. 14 playtests down. Really expect to maybe do quite a few more, because we do have. Unfortunately I did lose my notes for the first 13 games. I hate to say it, I lost all those feverish notes, so really upsetting. But either way, that we still got more to work on. A lot of cards still need to get play tested. Guillaume, as you sent me a message earlier, you want to make sure to do your next play test game, including the card All Lies Lead the Truth. All of the play testers, all of you guys, please include that card in there, because it is a card that Dax went over and over and over again with drafts. And I'm sorry again, Dax, for making you go through that, because that was just an effect that really needed some refining. I don't want it to be the quarantine zone of season 5, but yes, if you guys could include that card in each of your play test games going forward, give that one a test, because we need to make sure we got the text refined before Dax even considers throwing a flavor text in there. I may even just have to scrap that card altogether. I'd hate to do it. I think it's cool, but I may have to. That may be the one that just gets a complete remodeling altogether in order to make that one work. So yes, please include that one in there. And also more Lone Gunmen, because we need to come to an agreement on what their effects are going to be, what limitations their effects are going to have for those 6 RP agents. But yes, no time frame on releasing it. Ideally, I would like to have it done before this year is out. But with playtesting and then going back and putting all the revisions, and then also incorporating different graphics in there, which is a bit of a headache, I know, for Dax. Again, thank you so much, Dax, for entertaining me, indulging me on this. It might be my last one. Might be. We'll see. But just, yeah, bear with me a little longer for this. But yeah, questions about Season 5, guys? I mean, you guys are playing testing these, so you guys kind of know what we're working with here.
Yeah, having a lot of fun doing it in the games I've played too so far. I think I think I've done 2 or 3 play tests, and I remember saying, "Oh, these are really fun games," several times while doing it. So, and that's, we're using a combination of commercially released in season 5, and in some cases Scully and season 4 cards too, but they jive really well together. I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the season 1, 2, 3 expansion, but I'm excited to build on some of the concepts that you've created here in the season 5 set. So
excellent. And yes, that it's very much like a group effort where we come up with some of these we take some of the overarching themes from the show that kind of extend beyond one season. And so, yeah, it's great that we're we're collaborating to try to keep some of those thematic elements from one expansion to the next, so that they're not just like an island in of themselves, but they can also be, we can have those games where it's like, okay, and I are going to play using season 4, 5, and cards from season 4, 5, and 6, and you can have things like the traitor keyword or the cancer element or the gulag element that will carry over potentially from one expansion to the other. Yeah, this is going really well. Again, I'm sorry I did lose my notes, but so I feel bad because I got so much great feedback from you guys on those first 13 games, and I did make some small notes on the cards. So I do have some of it, but yeah, I'm really frustrated that I did lose all that feedback that you guys got. So I hope, I might be asking the same questions that I've asked in previous games, just to make sure I've got all the correct feedback from you guys, and that your opinions are being represented in the revisions that we're doing. We've seen, at the very least already, I think almost half of the cards are having some small modification, whether it be a word on the text or keywords getting added or something's getting changed on almost half of them already. It's just the other half that I want to make sure gets a chance to be stress tested before we call it quits.
Right on.
And so no sign of Mike. Should we just skip to either?
Yeah, we're gonna have to move on. He's texting me saying that the power is very unreliable, so we should probably just move on to season 6.
I don't know if he's got anything specific to add, but if you want to go back to it, I mean, I do want to encourage those who haven't ordered a set, that it is out there. if you want to go back to, so you can, it's a smaller expansion. It is only like 54, 55 cards. And it is available to order through Dax, as all these expansions are. So anyone who's watching who doesn't have them yet, you can reach out to him and you can get these cards through him. So yeah, you got 54 in here. So it's obviously not going to cost as much as it is to get one of these season long expansions. So great set, cool graphics, especially that B graphic is very inspired. So yeah, I know Dax had some orders for them, not as many as he would have liked. It was a labor of love. It's interestingly, it was only like 55 cards, but this one has taken the longest. Well, actually, if you factor in that time we're putting in with the second edition of season 4, it might exceed it. But this Fight the Future expansion took like 2 years, I think, almost, maybe even a little longer. If Dax was here, he'd be like, it felt like it took 4 years at least. But yeah, it was a labor of love on his part and Mike's as well. Not to take away from Mike, who was definitely the jumping off point for this. So yeah, these are a worthy inclusion into what we're doing. So if Mike comes back, if he has anything more to weigh in on, but yeah, I don't know. I did not know if he had any specific talking points about it, but I hope I did it justice, Mike.
Yeah, a lot of fun. There was a lot of healthy debate about a lot of these cards, but that's like we were saying before, that's part of the creative process, and that's what makes these cards so great, is that they integrate well with all of the other expansions. We we talked it all over. How does this card interact with this card from Truth Is Out There? This card breaks this one from the Mulder set. It's all very well put together. Even though it's a smaller expansion, this was a great example of how we don't just throw stuff out there. It wasn't just a vanity project. It was a lot of people put a lot of effort into it. Cool. Season 6, Guillaume?
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into much detail because during our previous discussion, I showed quite a few cards from Season 6, but the first draft has been completely done, and I managed to get it at the 175 cards limit that we had set for our main expansions.
And your 4 promos are going to be, are they all agents? I already know the answer, but I'm throwing it out there.
For each expansion, there is at least 1 Mulder promo and 1 Scully promo, so that leaves room for 2 promos. The 2 agents, the 2 promo agents from that expansion are going to be Jeffrey Spender and Diana Farley. And yeah,
I like that.
And yeah, I made notes of what episodes were the best, were the most represented in each of the things I worked on. And surprisingly, for season 6, 3 of a Kind is the episode that has the most cards.
Would not have expected that.
Yeah, Dreamland is second. Dreamland Part 1, and Two Fathers is the third one. And the least represented episode is Trevor.
Okay. If I had done that expansion, I believe Field Trip would probably be the most represented, with Monday in a close second.
What I found surprising working on those expansions is that sometimes episodes that even I'm not the most fond of are the ones that provide the most opportunities for original cards. Like, you can only do so many cards that send agents back to the bureau or send them to the hospital. But with episodes like Fight Club in season 7, which I'm not particularly fond of, or 3 of a Kind, I don't dislike it, but it's not a favorite of mine. But they gave me more ideas, more original ideas at least.
That's very true, because with the season 5 expansion, the keyword trader came out of the episode Travelers, which is a very like middle of the road episode. I think for most viewers, it wouldn't be a favorite. But yeah, that's where I came up with the idea for that keyword trader. That is a big part of that expansion. So yeah, it is surprising. That's true that certain episodes that you wouldn't expect spawn some of the greatest creativity for these sets.
Yeah, there are many cards in this set that I'm looking forward to playtesting, especially the new Area 51 mechanic, and there are some adversaries, some witnesses, like you can see here, the 9039 Scully from Triangle. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys play with those cards.
I'll be honest, I really thought 1939 Scully was going to be the promo card but you surprised me because I've seen them all now, but that was what I was guessing, but I like what you've done with it. But I thought, oh, we're going to get like 1939 Scully as a promo card to use as a, with the full.
Yeah, because, well, in the first version of season 6, I did not include her because I could not find a good mechanic or a good idea for her, and I was like, no, I have to include her. But she's, well, I say 1939 Scully, but she's not Scully, she's someone else. Like, she doesn't have the same skills, so I wanted to do something more with her than just duplicating the agent card with her picture. So hopefully this is a good way to include her in the set. And I think that's it for season 6 on my part.
For those of us who aren't familiar, 1939 Scully.
Watch the show, David.
Oh my God,
David. All right.
Have you not watched season 6 yet?
I started with season 11, so I just wasn't a fan. All right, you caught me. You caught me. Any more questions or comments? Season 6.
I do want to point out, so the color that Guillaume's got here appears to be yellow. Again, represented on the DVD for season 6, the original one. I'm calling attention to the colors because they're going to come back in a later slide in a way that I think you guys are going to find that's really cool. So I do want to keep calling attention to those. Yeah, right, Guillaume?
Steven, you're such a tease. Come on.
I am, because really, like, I think, like, I don't think I can hype up enough like what we've got coming up shortly.
Well, all right. Well, with that, Nathan, we're going to turn to you, good sir, with the season 1 through 3 revisited. We kind of mentioned that earlier regarding mini expansions and that sort of thing. So tell us, what do you have in mind here?
Well, it's not exactly a mini expansion.
It came up during that discussion. So
I got you. Okay.
Definitely clear that up for me.
Oh, it's the eye from Piper Maru, right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that.
Something from each of the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, I love that, and the Deny Everything title is fun. We'll see if we stick with that. But if any of you have listened, and I'm sure you're a bunch of X-Files nerds, I'm sure you have, the Mark Snow album that was interspersed with dialogue from the episodes. There's I used to listen to that when I was falling asleep because there's a lot of real low-key stuff on there. Mm-hmm. But then, I swear to God, I'd listen to this thing, and then you'd get that Stephen Williams Deny Everything. That was just, and it would launch into this loud berserk music, and it would wake me up every time. So, yeah. So I don't know why, but Deny Everything, I love that phrase just for that. But anyway, so you see the 073317. That is a callback to Dana Scully's X-File number after she is abducted by Dwayne Barry. So I like adopting that as a code name here. But in general, we're still working on this expansion. We're probably about I'd say 50% of the way there. I'm through my season 1 rewatch. We're into season 2 now, and have season 3 yet to go. And I'm trying to, as I go through, the challenge is double checking everything that has already been made for that episode in the commercially released stuff to make sure it's not already on a card, although I got a pretty good memory for that. And then as I design game effects, keeping in mind that not only am I searching, Yoast database for similar game effects, but I've also got to kind of keep in mind what you've done in season 4 and 5, Stephen, and Guillaume. I'm sure if there are things that come up when we go to start playtesting that you have in season 7, because this will now follow season 6. I'm sure you let me know about that. So some of the cool things about this, I think I mentioned before, we're going to be able to play off some of the keywords and game mechanics that Steven has created as part of the season 4 and 5 expansions. So and callbacks to the Scully expansion too. So, for example, you're gonna be seeing cards with the keyword secret, and if you're in our Discord, you may have seen those already. I did spoil one of those as part of the sort of anniversary for the pilot episode, which is the file folder, or not file folder, but I guess like the storage facility at the Pentagon in the first episode, kind of themed off that allows you to play face down cards under it. This expansion is really going to focus on sort of the UFO theme that I guess was kind of omnipresent throughout the first 3 seasons. And so you're going to see a lot of cards with keywords like abduction and now abductee from Steven's season 5 expansion. So I'm really excited to play in that space. And honestly, the playtesting has been a great thing for that for season 5, because I can kind of recognize where there are gaps, right? So one of the things I tried to do was, okay, let's really try to play on this abduction and abductee concept with a deck. And I think putting that together, I recognized there are a lot of really good building blocks here, but we need a few cards to tie this together to make this a workable deck, right? So playtesting is a lot of fun because you get to recognize where that is, and then you can actually build that into the next expansions.
Yep.
Insanity is another keyword. You'll see the cancer and gulag concepts come back, and also trader cards. So there's a lot of stuff from Scully season 4, season 5 that I'm incorporating, as well as like with Insanity, some callbacks to 1013. Which we saw for the first time there. So some other things, we're going to be continuing the cycle of bluffs that change site prerequisites. So for example, let me just go to my...
Yeah, which ones haven't we done yet?
We have a whole list of them, but I'll give a... Oops, I think it's on my phone. I'll give a sample, I guess, as part of this conversation. So... I've really been Deep Throat is one of my favorite episodes. So this is Lieutenant Colonel Budahas is going to get a card now. Nice. And he is going to be on a bluff. The bluff is going to change the site prerequisite from bureaucracy to alien investigation.
Okay, yes, those ones from the Scully sets. I was thinking of like Detective Thompson or Peter Tanaka, but you're talking about those ones that are from the Scully set. Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're a little more specific, a little more niche, but
I like that you're fulfilling the gaps.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they're not like, again, I think Stephen, you and I design, I think, a little bit differently. So I think you, and this is laudable, want to be very faithful to the original commercially released sets. Whereas I'm like, oh, I got shiny new toys, let's break them, And so I need to temper that like urge to let's do new stuff with okay, you can't do that on every card, right? So we need a lot of stuff in this set, and there's plenty of it. And you guys have been great about posting in that channel on Discord some of the spots where we do need to fill in things that were started in earlier expansions that we need to to wrap up. So I do appreciate that, and am using a lot of those effects in the expansion.
I
what
can't
the
wait.
heck?
I can't wait to see what agents you're bringing to this.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil. There's one that I'm so excited about, but maybe I can give you this. It is an agent in the vein of Blevins and Krychek.
Okay.
So we'll throw that out there and let you stew on that. But and it is a little challenging because they have hit a lot of those agent notes, commercially released stuff. But
interesting.
but every episode there's really so much fertile ground, in terms of really virtually every episode has some agent that assists in their investigation, whether it's a detective at a whatever locality they're at, or some FBI agent in a field office or whatever. So there's still a lot to play with there. Let's see, where do I want to go here? Well, as long as we're on Deep Throat, I'll preview another bluff, which is Verla McLennan, one of my one of the really cool characters who, if you've seen that episode recently, you might remember that is
she was married to Uncle Fester.
Yeah, that's right. So he's another experimental pilot, and she kind of scolds Budahas's wife for bringing
she's
the
not
FBI.
really nice.
She's not nice. No, and she's totally invested in this experimental program that has destroyed her husband. So she gets her own bluff here, and her game effect, and this is actually a broader point. One of the things that I'm trying to do, along with the original game designers, is incorporate a few Magic concepts for Magic the Gathering into the game. So, and that's there's a long history of that. You go back to cards like Alien Harvester was the Chaos Orb of the X-Files CCG. So, and I'm a big Magic the Gathering, vintage fan. So I like incorporating some of these concepts. So anyway, Verla McLennan's game effect, and we can tinker with this, but she is a 1 CP bluff that allows you to reveal the top 3 cards of your bureau deck. You get to keep a bluff from that and play it immediately at half cost. So it's kind of a lottery gamble, in the vein of I think it's Blue Plate Special, right? That lets you flip one card or
like that Geraldine Kalinchuk bluff that's in the Scully set, right?
Yeah, although isn't she? What is she like? Search.
Well, I think she's pull up the next 3 cards, right? Is she not?
Yes.
You
draw the first 3 cards, and then if there is one playable CP card, you get to play it immediately for 3, and you discard the other 2.
Oh, is that really it? Oh gosh,
she's not limited to bluffs then. Yeah.
Oh,
I thought she was pretty broken for her effect, actually.
Okay, so it's bluffs on. Okay, gotcha. That's
so yeah. So this is only one bluff you get to keep in the top 3, and you get to play it for half cost immediately.
Nice.
So
I like that randomization. I like that.
Oh yeah, or
the
for free.
Aspect. Yeah.
Or you get to play it for free if it has the keyword government.
Sweet.
And that was intentional too, because actually, I think Steven, Resist or Serve is a card that requires you to have an alien and a government keyword played in the same turn. There are not many. It's somewhat challenging to do that, and again, that's something that I've tried to build around for the season 5 playtesting. So
yes, I know for Mr. May, keywords are just I can't remember the term he used for them, but it's but for us, it's the keywords are so much fun to play with, and to incorporate game effects, build around them, and of course, build your deck around some of these keywords. So you can build around the traitor effect, insanity effect. You can have this deck in this case, Nathan. You would be you're half your conspiracy portion of your deck's going to be alien, the other half would be government. So you can really try to have a fine chance of those combos actually taking place. Yeah.
And so you can you're actually going to see an adversary that is both an alien and government keywords. So that's one fun thing. And let's see if there's anything else I want to specifically mention here. You may have already seen the Jesse O'Neill card that we developed for Dax when he wanted to go get that autograph. So that's floating around out there. Yeah, I think. Artifact is a keyword that that needs some attention too.
Yes, it does. Very much so.
And so equipment is something too that I think there are a few things that we can do to sort of synthesize game effects. So for example, special equipment. One of the cards in the set is going to allow you to basically steal your opponent's special equipment attached to one of the investigating players at the site. And I believe I did that one from Squeeze. It was like trophy hunting or something like that. Was the card name, but yeah. So I'll open it up, and this is probably I'll be very honest. This is probably going to be an expansion that is going to require a little more play testing, just because of my inclination to do things that are a little bigger and may not work as well. So I'll be counting on you guys to tell me, Nate, you're off your rocker on this.
It'll be nice to be on the other side that once I get through 5. I mean, your feedback, all of your guys' feedback is helpful, but it'll be just nice when I'm like, okay, I have to not have the answer to everything with regards to these cards, and someone else gets to be put in the hot seat. Guillaume, you're up next.
Yeah, and I have to
brace yourself.
I'm a little nervous about that, because it's like you are putting out there something that you've spent a lot of time working on, and even though you know that it is only done to improve what you've done, it's like you try not. I most of all, I hope you guys like what I wrote and what I came up with. That's the important thing. So,
look, the way I look at it, this is, if you've written 170 cards for this, like, however these cards end up, that is a tremendous accomplishment and a tremendous amount of work. And even if I'm not going to have any kind of like pride of authorship necessarily over these cards, my desire in the first draft is just to do game effects that I think are useful, that I think are fun, that contribute to the entertainment experience of the game. Okay. And if you look at them and you say, this isn't fun, I'm confused about this, I don't understand how this works, this doesn't work how I think it should, I'm totally open to that. We can blow these things up, and it's a collaborative thing. These are just ideas I'm throwing out there, and we will definitely improve on them, as we go through the process. So constructive criticism is awesome, and I love it, and tear it apart, and we will build it back up, and it will be better.
Yeah, because no first draft is going to be pitch perfect. I know. I mean, we've learned that ever since we were writing things in like papers in school. It's like your first draft is going to always have its flaws, and with this many cards, there's going to be some things in there that it is so hard to catch and to see the problems when it's just on paper and it's not actually being used in the course of a game, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like then realize all the things that are wrong with it. And so, yeah, this is why we're doing it this way with the the review, the peer review process, with the play testing, and why it takes a year for us to get it from paper to printed card, is because it's going through such a rigorous state of review and revisions. My gosh, lots of revisions, and before it finally hits the presses. And it's better as a result. The final product is better. My gosh, if the season, if Dax had released those season 4 cards in their first draft without any of you guys giving feedback on it, it would have been the worst. In hindsight, it would have been the worst expansion conceivable, because so many of those things that I initially thought were cool, but they were broken when I first wrote them, and it took you guys to point that out to me. So yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about the process that we go through. It's rigorous for a reason, and because it's getting the most serviceable product out there.
Awesome. Any other questions about season 1 through 3? Nathan, that was a lot. There's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm really excited about those cards. And from the ones that we've seen so far, the storage facility is the one that I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah,
sure.
That's one I had in the back of my head. Like if we're talking ultra rares from the set, I think that would be a good.
It's agents for me. I cannot. I know you got like the medical examiner from the pilot episode. I know he's an agent. Beyond that, I don't know other agents included in there. But I'm really excited for what agents you're bringing into this that didn't get represented when with the original cards.
Very cool.
Very cool. All right. Guillaume, I think we're back to you with season 7.
Yeah. So what I did not mention in season 6 is that for each of the seasons, for season 6, 7, and 8, I try to have new mechanics that are unique to those seasons, especially for witnesses. So there are resource witnesses in season 6 that have a specific game effect that cover all of the 11 skills. Then there is the same thing like resource witnesses in season 7, for instance, and there are also resource witnesses in season 8. For season 7, the episodes that are the most represented are the final 3 episodes of the season, and it's also in order. So the Requiem has the most cards, Just Sweat is second, and Fight Club is third. For this season, I think what I'm looking forward to the most for playtests is the cards from Just Sweat, because I really wanted to do something that would represent that episode. And
wish fulfillment.
Yeah, I really struggled to find something that could fit. So hopefully it works, but playtesting will show us that. I tried to include agents that were not police officer or law enforcement members. So like you can see here, you get a Howard Peter agent card. And I'll go ahead and spoil that there is also a Jen the Janaya agent card.
Wow. That's definitely an independent agent right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I needed her to be able to set up the game mechanic that I wanted for the cards from the episodes, which will include new keywords. So yeah, hopefully that works. But I'm really happy with that. Yeah, and I think that's it for season 7. You can move to season 8 because I don't want to take too much time, and especially since those expansions won't be play tested until like, I don't know, 2 years from now at least. So the first draft is done, and
a lot can happen between now and then.
Yeah, and just for season 8, so like Steven said, I kept the colors of the DVD box set, so it's purple for season 8, and yeah, the episode that is the most represented is Existence, and then 3 Words and Without. Okay. And I kind of struggled to find good agents from season 8, so because I wanted to have witnesses also and lots of resource events for the conspiracy player. Basically, Nathan, you mentioned at some point, because when we were talking about doing cards like alien discretion for every skill, and then you run the risk of, well, basically no matter what your team is, you have every card that you need to get rid of the conspiracy card that your opponent may play. So I really wanted to create a balance and to create conspiracy source cards that would, you could play in two situations. So it's like remove a token to do this, but also while in play, you may discard this resource to play this specific adversary. So depending on what's your strategy for the conspiracy, you're basically covered. And hopefully that will create a balance between how well prepared you can be when you are the investigating player versus not knowing what your opponent is going to bring when you are the conspiracy player. And, well, minor spoiler, but there is Jeremiah Smith's agent card for Season 8.
So he's not just a witness, and he's not just an X-File, but he's also an agent.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Fine. I don't know what that means. All right. Anything else from Season 8? Any questions for Guillaume? No? Feeling good? Love the purple. All right. Now we're getting into the meat of it, because we talked about 5, 6, 7, 8 in previous discussions, actually. So now we're getting into new stuff, and I'm not sure who to throw this to.
Well, it depends on. I don't know what. I honestly don't know the order anymore.
It's what we worked on. So
okay, all right, let's do this. And
this
saving
is
the best for last, which is going to be David May. Okay, yes, we got a couple of new code numbers that are going to be used to denote 2 upcoming expansions. These are what I would call mini expansions to some degree, but they're a little different, as we're going to see shortly. So 82517 is the number that was on the top of the train car that was carrying the alien hybrid in 731, the one that ultimately got blown up. 53934 is the reference number on the computer when Mulder was looking up information about Cassandra Spender and Cigarette Smoking Man. I believe that was Cassandra's reference number, and that was seen in Two Fathers, right, Guillaume?
Yes.
Excellent. So that's from representing Season 6. So these are the first 2 expansions of what is going to be 4. The other 2 are a little bit further down the line because they're depending upon the projects that Guillaume is working on that we just got done talking about. But these first 2 are to go because we already have a more firm idea about what is going to be encompassed in the season's expansions of 4, 5, and 6. Let's hit it, David. New X-File cards to expand upon the existing 41 X-File cards on the checklist. Now, this is something that Guillaume and I had been working on quite a lot in the last month because we have talked about this for a long time. We wanted to see this for so very long, but we just could not figure out what's the right method to go about doing this. What would be the best way to go? Because especially when we're playing these games over a StreamYard. So how can we do these? There's been a lot of ideas that have been floated out there over time. And of course, as we know, Mr. May, when the X-Files CCG was discontinued, there were 9 other X-File cards that were in the works to bring the checklist up to 50. And those were represented some of the characters from seasons 3 and 4. So they are going to be incorporated into this. Those 9 are going to be included in this. But here is what Guillaume and I had been working on. So I think we need to go to the next? What's on the next slide? Okay, so this sort of spells it out a little bit more, but I'll have you go back to that one shortly, David. So here is the breakdown of these 4 expansions. So what we're going to do is, as you guys know, the first checklist, or the OG checklist that we're talking about, encompasses X-File episodes from seasons 1 and 2, right? 41 episodes, season 1 and 2 are represented on that checklist that we all use. Here's what we're proposing is we're going to have what we call expansion checklist XC for the which will be part of the Bureau file number for these. So the original one, which is Guillaume notes there, the Premier Edition covers seasons 1 and 2. And So 82517, which is from season 3's 731, that expansion checklist is going to cover seasons 3 and 4. So the 41 X-Files represented on that first new expansion checklist is going to have 41 X-Files, and some of them are going to be from season 3. The rest are going to be from season 4, so they're evenly represented in there. And I know some of you are thinking, okay, why the 41 again? Why not go 50? Why not go this number? So here's what we're doing. So we're sticking with the number of X-Files that are present on the first one. And here's what's really cool about this, because the first checklist, the original checklist, Evolutionary, has that 9th extra X-File. So it's the hanging fruit. Every single time you get an affiliation question, you're like, oh, I'm going to go Evolutionary, right? Because that one has one more than the others. This first new checklist is going to see Government have the 9th X-File on there, and the rest are going to be 8. So Evolutionary is not going to be the low-hanging affiliation on this one. When you get to the next checklist after that, it's going to be Alien that gets 9 instead of Evolutionary Government. So each checklist, one affiliation is going to have one more X-File represented on there. So each of the characteristics that are on here are going to be low-hanging fruit from one checklist to the next, which I thought was a really cool way to, so it's like death isn't going to be the low-hanging fruit on every one of these every time. Some cases, some of the other ones will be low-hanging fruit. So it was really fun trying to come up with that balance for giving out these characteristics. So again, 82517, that's seasons 1 and 3 represented on there. So you got 41 X-Files coming out of that one. And as you can see, Guillaume has already come up with a draft of the checklist, which was something we were also struggling. This is why we hadn't done this up to this point, because how are we going to make this checklist available? Well, Guillaume has already has a working template for it that we're going to be able to use. And so the idea is when these can be made available to people through email, and they can be printed out any size, which is great for some of us who have aging eyes. They can print them off the size on legal size paper, like some of us has already done, and have that laminated if you want to. And what's great about this is so you can email the checklist to your opponent, be like, hey, and of course, eventually, if they're available on Yost's website as a checklist, that would be great too. You'd be like, okay, so you tell your opponent, I have selected my X-File from checklist number 1 or checklist number 2. And so your opponent's going to have that checklist available so that they will have those X-Files that they're available to them so that they can scratch off during the game. So that's how it will be. That's how it's going to work. You will just tell your opponent, I've chosen my X-File from this one, from this list of X-Files. And so same thing back and forth. So your opponent will have that and you'll have that. And we'll do that for each of these. These will need playtesting as well, obviously. Maybe not as many as a season-long expansion does, but it will need playtesting to make sure that the distribution of the characteristics is fair and all that. So it will have a playtesting process as well. So looking at the next one, which is XC2 53934, that is going to cover 41 X-Files from season 5 and season 6, and 1 from the Fight the Future film, which is going to be one of the 4 that Dax had made early on with the Blackwood expansion. We're taking one of those and incorporating it in there. So seasons 5, 6, and Fight the Future are represented on that second one. And again, Alien's the low-hanging fruit in that one. And so later on, when we get to the third one, that's going to cover season 7 and 8. Again, 41 X-Files on there. And probably Primordial Occult will be the low-hanging fruit. I suspect it probably will be Occult on that one. And then eventually we're going to get to the fourth one, which is going to be season 9, season 10 and 11, and the I Want to Believe film. And because there's more seasons are included in there, because those seasons were shorter. Obviously, there was only 6 episodes in season 10. I think 11 in season 11, or maybe there were only 10, but still they were shorter. So seasons 9, 10, 11 are going to be that final one in there. And who knows, I might, if room to spare, I might have to go back and grab a couple X files from season 1 that maybe weren't represented. Like Born Again did not have an X file card, for instance, and neither did the Erlenmeyer flask, actually. So who knows? We'll see. That one isn't written. Only the first 2 are written at this point. And actually, David, if you could go back to the previous slide, what I wanted to call out is something that I've been pointing out with each of these expansions.
Well, I think it's shown in the third one.
The third one too? Oh, okay, even better. Yes, that's even better. I forgot about this one. Thank you, Guillaume. So the makeup of these, the face cards, these are the face cards. So you're going to get 42 in this order, the face card and then the 41 X file. So it's a mini expansion such as it is. And so Guillaume did a really great job coming up with these mock-ups, which is going to incorporate the color templates of the 2 seasons that are represented on each of these checklists. So we've got the Blood Rust from season 4, plus the color that was used in the Scully set is represented half on that. It's a blend, so it's represented on that first one. And then for season 5, which we had the blue face card, and season 6, as Guillaume has with the yellow, those are blended in there as well. So, and you also have 1 Mythark image and 1 Monster of the Week image represented on both of those face cards. So those are beautifully beautiful mock-ups done by Guillaume. And of course, the templates for the actual 41 X files themselves are going to have that blend of color in there as well. Is that represented on the earlier one, Guillaume, or is it the next one?
The next one, yeah.
The next one. So there you have it. So if you look at, so here is the a close-up of the checklist for A2517. Apology is policy is our tagline that we're using for this. So we're using the colors in the X files themselves, or the colors from the face cards are represented in there, and that's also why I want to go back and redo season 4, because I really want that color to be incorporated in there, because we're applying that bit of internal consistency. And I'm really glad Guillaume used the Betty X file in this example, because it is by far your most beautiful. This is the Betty X file. There is, I feel like it's your tour de force for everything that I've seen you do. It is a beautifully rendered card. I love it. And so, yes, here's Nathan. This is the first of 4 checklists that we have here. Guillaume, it has a designator of C1 at the top there, because it's going to be the first of 4. And my plan, it's not represented on here, but because we only came up with the logo a little more recently. But as you guys know, when you look at the bottom of the checklists, the commercially released ones, they have the US PC logo right there at the very bottom. And so when eventually we get this checklist done and it's available for people to request, and they'll get the checklist emailed to them when they order the cards through DAX, it'll have that logo that we just came up with will be represented at the bottom on there with the website, ideally, because ideally we'll have the website will maybe hopefully be a little further along by the time we get this done, because these are not going to be available. This first one is not going to be available until after we wrap up playtesting for season 5. When that's done, this will be the next thing, because this, again, we're just not going to require that many playtests, but we'll do it in between season 5 and season 6 playtests. So we'll have that one thrown in the middle there, but again, it won't take much time to do. And then we will do the next, is there the next slide, the second one, Guillaume?
Yes.
Yes. And so when we wrap up playtesting for season 6, that's when we will conduct the playtesting for the 53934 XC2 checklist for, again, season 5 and 6 in the movie. Right, Guillaume?
And I think that's even something that we can playtest during the main season's playtest, because it's only something that you need to play the game in order to playtest this, so might as well playtest both at the same time. Just say, okay, for this game we are playtesting C1, and just pick one, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. Guillaume, please talk about this, because you were my co-conspirator in putting these together. So what have I forgotten to say?
Well, I'm really proud of what we did with these expansions, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Creating new X-File cards was something that I wanted to do for a long time, and I sent you a first checklist of 50 X-Files, but from season 3 through 11, and I like how you took it even further and say, okay, we're not just going to do one because we won't be able to represent every episode. Well, we still won't be able to represent every single episode, but
It'll be close.
But yeah, and it's an opportunity for us to showcase new images or iconic images that we haven't shown on the main expansion. Right. Sometimes that was also a struggle because, like for instance, for the Floridian Mothman that we see, there are usually 2 known pictures of them, so we were able to use that second one. But sometimes it's difficult because there are already, for some episodes, there are so many events, there is adversaries, etc. So you're like, what picture can I even use? There is an X-File card that we can do for that episode, but we're not sure what image we can find. So I think that Steven, you did a great job writing those, and it was a lot of fun putting them together. I'm happy with how they came out. And for the checklist, yeah, I already started working on a version that includes the logo. And I really wanted to include that version of the X in the background because that is the version of the X that is on the face cards. So that also makes it different from the original checklist. So, and I think, overall, it's not something that will change the way we will play the game because, it doesn't change the overall game. But I feel, we have new sites, and even when you started playtesting season 4, just playing new site cards gave new energy to the game because you don't feel like you're playing the same cards over and over again. And the one thing that we haven't changed yet is the X-File cards, because you're always choosing from those 41 cards. And I think that having new checklists and new cards to choose from, it's also going to bring new energy to our games.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like this is going to be great. Like when we play like a game using season 4 expansion, I will very much likely be using selecting an X-File possibly from this first checklist where 3 and 4 are represented. Because it is weird that we're playing testing season 5 right now, and these are encompassing episodes from the 5th season. But yeah, we're using an X-File from way back in seasons 1 and 2. So yeah, it just really took a long time to come up with an idea, like how can we best do this in a way that is going to make them available? Because obviously this checklist is something that has to be included with this. So obviously a digital checklist that can be emailed is going to be the main way of getting around. And of course, again, Yost can make it available on his website as well, so we can pull up that checklist on his site as well when we want to play a game using some of these other X-Files on there. But I think, keeping with the 41 X-Files per checklist is the most faithful route to go because we know it works as opposed to we haven't tried it out with 50 X-Files on there yet or 40, but we know it works with 41. And again, I like the idea of having each of the other characteristics on here be given an opportunity to be low-hanging fruit when we play it. So you're not going to see the same order of questions like, okay, is your result death? Is your affiliation evolutionary? It's going to be different when you go through each checklist.
Two questions on that point, Steven. Number one, are all of the characteristics the same as the characteristics that exist on? So you're not introducing any new characteristics?
No. It's just that the number that you have 6 insanity appear on the original one.
Switching it. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So that's where the playtesting is going to come in, because we've got to make sure that in coming up with different orders and stuff like this, because or even trying to create more balance to some of them, where it's so you have about almost the same amount as insanity as in death. Is that serviceable though? Does it make, when you're scratching off the possibilities throughout the game, is there a stark difference in the way you're doing that versus the way you've done it on the original one since time out of mind. What's your second question?
Second question is, do both players have to pull from the same checklist? So
No, they just have to tell their opponent which one they're pulling from.
Okay. Very good.
That makes it even extra flavors, because you could be like, yeah, so I'm using I'm using checklist number 2, and like, oh, okay, well, I'm using checklist number 1, and so but as long as your opponent has that checklist available to them, so eventually we'll have so the checklist will all be available by email. So if you have the 41 printed cards, then you have the checklist as well. Right. So when people order them, they'll get the checklist email. So like if Guillaume's going to be the one emailing them out, that's something we haven't ironed. If Guillaume's going to email it, or if he's going to have it to Dax, so Dax emails it out to everyone who orders a set of them. Little detail like that we'll figure out. But
downloadable off your website.
Downloadable off the web. Yeah, when you get the website up, there you go. But obviously that's still a ways down the line. But yes, it'll be accessible.
Be optimistic.
Yeah, and have it on the website as a PDF. To print off, just like all the other cards. So yeah, make it as accessible as possible. Yeah,
very cool.
David, what do you think?
I like this plan. I'm excited to be part of it.
Ghostbusters.
Okay, thank you for that. I think this is fun. I think hit the nail on the head when you said that season 4 came along, and just having new sites and stuff kind of added a new dimension to it. And to your point, I'm just kind of saying the same thing that you said already. But how cool is it to be playing season 4 and 5 cards and have your X files matching the seasons rather than playing the same tired guys? I mean, they're great. They're great cards, right? But it's neat to have a little fresh infusion of characters in there and have them match the season that you're playing. So that's kind of cool.
And I really got to say, like, it was a work of art, like, because Guillaume and I scratched our heads on like, okay, so what are the colors gonna like? What are we gonna do for the color of these cards? Or like, we did not have this idea of like blending them together, because I'm like, well, the initial is like, well, the first checklist expansion, they can just all be red to represent season 4. I'm like, yeah, but we've got half of these X Files are from season 3, which is Scully's set, and so came up with this idea of blending the template, which is just so like innovative and looks so cool, and it's so colorful, and it just feels more like a work of art. Like I feel like these like look like commercially released cards, like they have that level of professionalism built into them, and it's like and I can't imagine. And I love how like we've got a Monster of the Week and a Myth Arc episode represented on each of the face cards as well. So again, it's
we could have never done this. We could have never done this because we could never change the card back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So we could never have blundered even into anything like this. And you're right, it's just art. Like I said, it is beyond. Do not kid yourself. It is better than commercial grade. All right,
that's a compliment from
there. You have it.
No, I get straight up. I mean, we haven't flipped the page yet, right? I mean, I hadn't seen these, obviously this, I would only hope we could have been this smart, which I wouldn't have been, because I hated 41. So I was already in trouble. I was already on the wrong side of the thinking fence. I probably would have just acquiesced to 50, even though I probably would have hated that more. Right. But the aesthetic, I mean, I'm just all like teary eyed now. In game design, especially when you're having to work in this case in license. And I kind of joked earlier, as far as even approvals and right, there might have been restrictions that would have kept us from these things, which deserve to be seen, right? It is right. It's just, that's all there is to it. It's right.
And who knows, like, how the season 9, 10, 11, I want to believe checklist. I mean, who knows, Guillaume? We maybe decide, like, let's try out the 50 with that one. You know, we'll save that last one and maybe entertain that idea. Haven't ruled that out because we haven't done those last 2 yet. We want to, like, as Guillaume also said early on, like, we kind of struggled also with these is because we also have some of these images and some of these titles are represented on, like, say, adversary cards and things like that. And so it actually, you know, it is what it is kind of like informing some of the titles that we're choosing for some of the cards going forward too. So, which is why we're not dipping into the checklist for 7 and 8, because we want to get a little bit further along with that draft a little bit, right, Guillaume? And then we can decide on, you know.
I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you. Okay. I want to challenge you to do that 50.
Oh yeah, sure. We'll save it for the last one.
Do the 50, because that'll just somehow make this long game longer. But I need that counterpoint for what's going to come out of my mouth here shortly. So I need you to go 50, and we'll see why here in a minute.
We'll see. Yeah, I if we do the 50, I think it'll be most serviceable to leave it for the very end. Because if it turns out to be the worst idea, then it's like, well, at least that's only for like.
No, I need you to make it work. I need you to make it work.
Like anyway.
No, you got to make it work. You got to.
And also because fitting the 50 on there, yeah, we have to be able to fit 9 extra cards on that check.
It's not my problem. You got to make it work.
Yeah, it's Guillaume's problem mainly. But
all right,
yeah,
sorry,
I know it. I think you can fit 50 X files on there. Yeah,
good.
I'm not sure you can also fit the logos.
The logo and stuff. Yeah.
Oh
too.
gosh, now it's branding. We can't lose the logo.
Got to keep that in mind.
If it goes to Canada, it has to be in French. Got to have both logos.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll meet in the middle. We'll do 45. All right.
All right. Now you got to have more. Got to have more. All right.
Anything more? Any questions about that?
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. If you guys got questions, I mean, please, yeah.
I got nothing.
We're all looking forward to what's next.
Yep.
All right,
so let's get playtesting for season 5 done, and so then we can move on to these.
Yeah, we need to fast forward that season 5.
Hurry it up.
And with that, hey everybody, David May's here. It's been about 3 hours.
What? Am I still awake?
Hi, Dave.
Aren't you glad we decided to leave deck building for another broadcast?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been something else. But this is all new to me. So who's taken over for 011297?
That would be Mr. May.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David May.
Well, you got to turn the page.
Order up.
Bam. Okay, how's this go? This expansion, the episode with the most cards, season 8, episode 10. All right, that joke did not work. All right.
No, I got it. I didn't even think to do it for.
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
that's so funny.
We got to have some decorum. I gotta at least have composure when handling this task of card development. That's right, especially for an established game that has a player base, and really content creators, card creators that take these things incredibly seriously. Until, of course, you get to that pivotal point when Marge asks Homer, "Have you been drinking?" And he says,
10 beers.
"No." And it's been 10 beers. Just a few minutes later, right, as Homer is being berated by his own children. And I am the thing from Uranus comes into the room.
I'm
So,
sorry, what?
Have you
Yeah.
not seen this episode, David? It's fantastic. Watch it.
What? Are you kidding? This goes, which episodes, which seasons have you seen? So obviously, I think what was it said earlier? Was this vanity? What was the term that was used earlier?
Vanity Project.
Vanity project. Yes, this is the ultimate vanity project. The Springfield Files, man, where to go with this? Obviously, again, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing this opportunity. You know, I thought, man, what a cool opportunity. Again, I'm gonna quote Bart, right? Like I said, it was at that point when I was halfway through the episode, I realized I just got to chill out. You know, I want to be very careful because as you look at some of these cards, even these initial mock-up cards, and I'll go ahead and have you move into the card art. Man, this goes out to you, Magic guys. This was like, and I didn't want this, but this is like Secret Lair 2.0. I actually want that Run For It card, which, by the way, was not the intent. Okay, not remotely the intent. But I went, dang, that's just, man. So obviously the Simpsonization, is that a word? The Simpsonization.
It is now.
Whew, the aesthetics. All right. So then it was at that point that I realized, okay, we got to milk this thing for everything that it's worth. And I think on my initial pass, I ballooned out to about 120 cards, which was about a card every 10 seconds, it felt like. Right? Just the picture, the quote, that it was just, right? I don't even care what the mechanics are. You just can't pass that up. Right? And obviously that was a little bit too much for one episode. That was a lot.
It's only half an hour, right? Or 20 minutes is the
and pulled 120 cards on the first pass.
There's so much jammed into that episode, which is crazy.
The Easter eggs, the references, and then you have to kind of be careful because you know you just have too much you can do, and then again, it is The Simpsons, but I restrained myself to the actual episode, which is a bummer, because if you gave me all The Simpsons to work with, I'm you know, J. Edgar Hoover would be proud, because again, there is some repeat business, right? And again, just thinking of Bart and Lisa and all the ways and all the things. And if you haven't seen the episode, I don't know what you've been doing, because again, just too much, right? So I kind of went to Steven and said, I don't know, man. I got this really goofy idea now that I've stared at this for a while. And that is, I think I would like to make the standalone mini X-Files game within this episode. I don't know if you caught all those words in one sentence.
There were a lot, but I think we got them.
Yeah. So to that end, I knew that there had to be cards, obviously, that could be played in what we would call the advanced game. But I also knew that there was a unique opportunity now, just because of the nature of the episode, right? To do some things a little different. Now, I don't want to necessarily put a recommended age limit on this, but I noticed some themes that obviously emerged out of the episode. Clearly, one theme, obviously, which is funny, going the it says Stephen is like, there's one theme here that is highly repeated, and we'll come back to that. But as far as the overarching the episode is concerned, this one is alien centric. Okay, and it just so happens that there are 8 alien references in the episode. And it's interesting, we talk about promo cards. Again, I don't know if we move ahead. Is the Scully? We got the Scully by herself.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Scully. I mean, there's just so much here. It's unbelievable, right? I mean, just look. I don't know if you guys have seen these. I don't know how many of these have gotten in circulation. For those of you who are watching, whoever you are on YouTube, right? When I saw these mock-ups for the first time, I was enthralled. And of course, if you're familiar with the episode, I'm glad we're teasing Scully, but the Mulder, the promo for Mulder is iconic, right? And but then, like I stated, within the episode, there are 8 easily identifiable aliens, even though in our mock-ups we're not showing that. And so what I present to the committee is that I'm going to work basically probably within that 90, I forget what number I'm supposed to hit, 100, the sheet. But within the set, if you buy the set, not only will you get cards that can be played in the advanced game, but you are going to have the mini game in which you play within the actual episode, and each player will select one of the 8 aliens, which I guess that you already know, the affiliation, right? But it will create for a fast and furious game in which the players will share some resources. When I say share resources, there will be fixed sites, and most importantly, there'll be one very important fixed witness. And of course, that's Homer. And the challenge is going to be, in order to successfully investigate the site, is to, for lack of a better term, keep Homer either from running away or passing out. And again, I've given a lot in this reveal, right? But you'll be able to engage in this mini game. Again, cards will still have transference. Some of the cards will be fixed to the set.
Yeah, and there will be a icon. So like the little advanced X in the corner, there will be a different icon on these that are going to denote that this is for the mini game version only. So we're going to get a blend of cards that we can incorporate into the existing, the rest of the cards, the rest of the expansions, and the ones that are just going to be limited to only the mini game.
So that is the kind of 2 large reveals. I don't know if you caught when I was bested by Steven recently. And of course he had whittled me down, obviously to the Gregors, but in this particular illustration, I was the Franks. Again, I do envision this is kind of the first time we've ever again had a secret lair opportunity. I do have to admit, guys, when I saw Paperwork and Run for It and Angry Town, when I saw those cards, I'm like, man, I don't even want to rewrite them. Right? It's Deadly Blur. That was not intended, but I have to admit, but that's
all Guillaume. Guillaume gets full credit for that.
That lie detector, which is actually, I mean, I almost want to see those cards. I don't want to touch them, but I don't know how that's affecting me. But I'm just sharing that with you. So, really early on, if you want to scroll through some of the other images, I've given you the big reveal. I've got a design for a mini game. Stephen alluded to it earlier. For those of you who are over 18 or over 21, actually, I guess, outside of the military, I can't recommend, but we did discover that this has definitely got some other embedded gameplay, especially with the references in the episode. And I do not endorse, just say no, stay in school. But
drink in moderation.
Yes, play this game in moderation. But if you guys want to scroll through some of that, I'll take some questions, comments, or now concerns with the, kind of take the opportunity to make a mini game and present it within the context of the Simpsons episode. Still bring some cards over. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are site locations. Again, the set itself, if I stay within context, the spirit of the episode, it is alien heavy, right? Still pondering some design decisions. So this would not be a set where we would pull a lot of agents out. You're really getting the promo agents, right? Mm-hmm. I was still toying with possibly one other character as an agent.
Okay.
For play in game, but no Bart, no Homer, no Lisa. Lisa would have been the closest one anyway.
Right. Yeah, because she was the one who uncovered Mr. Burns at the end, so she almost
witnesses though, bluffs. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Equipment. It really does present itself, like I said, if you've watched the episode. Adversaries. So, all right, I'll take a step back now. If you want to scroll through some of these, we can. Again, questions, comments, concerns.
So just to recap, and I'm going to ask questions that I already know the answer, but obviously not many others do. So as you were saying earlier, there's going to be 8 X-Files, and so we're going to have a separate checklist for this because the checklist is actually going to be pretty short because it's only going to have 8 X-Files represented on them. But also, because we're introducing some new elements, this particular witness, these sites that you mentioned that are going to be like in play from the start of the game.
Shared resource.
Yes, site resources that are going to be in play when you begin the game. So how are we? So I assume there's going to be a rule book, yes, that explains the standalone element. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, we have to obviously supply you with the instructions for the mini game.
Mm-hmm. So, and the checklist will be included with that as well. Yes,
correct. Yep. And so, and again, recognizing, I don't want to give all the stuff away, but considering the speed of play, the fact that we are starting with affiliation, mm-hmm. But there's some things we can do to manage what I will call speed of play. What's interesting is as already in the traditional game, in order to ask a question, let alone guess an identity, you have to successfully investigate a site. We've added a layer here because of the thematic tone of the actual episode. And again, I'm assuming for those of you who have seen it, you realize that it is not till the end that, for lack of a better term, Homer is able to overcome what we would call his fear. There's a lot of scary moments that delay. That would be the term I would use. I don't know if we've talked about this mechanically in the larger functionality of site investigation, but not necessarily negating sites, but delaying investigative opportunity. Not negating or eliminating, but delaying. So there is a component that we can explore thematically that allows some timing so that you don't get the guess on the very first turn. Okay, so it's not just one and done, but you will have to progress basically through about what would be 3 rounds of gameplay in order to start getting to resolve. And as I said, there's a lot of, how shall I put it, potential delay tactics. So there'll be a different nuanced strategy within the mini game, and some of the theme will carry over, I believe, into advanced play. So have I really just, the audience is quiet. Either
Well, Guillaume and I already know because we've been having
you
discussions.
got there. So,
yeah.
Guillaume, you again, your work, like I said, is inspiring. And then Stephen, you are enabling. So Guillaume's inspiring, Stephen's enabling. So because they just let me loose. Right. And then the problem is once I was let loose, that cascaded into all sorts of other issues now within this. But fortunately, Stephen is my project manager, so he will continually wrap me back in. So again, there was a lot of potential in that 26 minutes. So with 5 minutes before 11 or wherever you are in America,
almost
because we only do our time here on the Pacific time zone, so as not to do that math for you people on the other side of the pond. Questions again, comments? If you want to scroll through some of these, there's a few. I think there's
are there more? Yeah, David, are there more?
This is all I have.
Yeah, no.
That's it.
I didn't include any more close-ups.
No blow-ups. But again, when you zoom in on these, if you want to go back one, I wanted to play combat cards again, just for that.
I think it looks amazing. This is one of my favorite Simpsons episodes. I remember I watched it because it was a big marketing thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Duchovny and Anderson are going to be on The Simpsons, and so I watched the original airing of it 30 years ago or whatever it is now. Ridiculous number.
Well, the code number is 90. 11297. I think that was the air date for the episode. If Guillaume comes back, he can verify. But yeah, 1997. That was when the show was in its I guess it would have been in its 5th season at that point. So
well, we're at like 26 or 27 years out now or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
Guillaume, the code is from the air date, right, of the episode? 11297.
Even the deep cuts.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And it really takes that trained eye to catch so much stuff that's going by.
Yeah. The amount of Easter eggs in that episode is just insane.
So, and again, if you're familiar, like I said, it does naturally lend itself to going outside the box.
Yeah, and I think the mini game is a perfect way to handle that.
Yeah, and so like those, I think like Dave Meyer or even Mike, who certainly love to imbibe while playing a game of X-Files CCG, they're going to get a special kick out of this when they
There's a lot of
incorporate the drinking version of this this mini game into their gameplay. So, Dave, Mike, you're watching. This is going to be catered to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll let you figure out the rules, but it is interesting that we were again able to take advantage of that. Like I said, there's there'll be a Homer that you can still play, but like I said, some of the cards in the set are designed to operate within the fixed community. We call them promos, so you're going to get the Mulder and the Scully.
Yep.
I will reference the Alien crossover, so aka the Franks. So thank you for that inspiration, because I didn't want to do a secret lair. I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
To use that magic parlance, but that's really. But part of me now sees this and just goes, man, that's just got to happen. I mean, that is like press ready right there. That is, and so I will ask again the group. I mean, I would like to explore some of that. That's a lot of real estate, for lack of a better term, with 100 cards. And again, I don't want to spoil. I know you gave some spoilers out tonight, right? I mean, if right off, we didn't even get out of. I mean, it's hard to even get out of the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
Before you got card material, let alone the introduction. And again, the big reveal, the greatest probably reveal in this, the card that begs. Like I said, it's what do I do with Nimoy?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll have a secret ballot. I mean, but I tell you, I have fooled around with it, but I do want to stay within the episode.
Yes, I think that's important. Yeah.
No, it really is important. So that does limit the number of, we'll say, character uses.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it, and again, I don't want to give away all the things in my head, but like I said, I think I've used the concept of, and I don't think it really exists, and that is delaying the inevitable, delay tactics. He who runs away lives to fight another day. So don't ask me what that means, but that there's a lot of that represented in this episode. So again, I know it's late. Everyone who's out there, whoever you are,
and I got a broadcast in about 8 hours, so I should be well rested for that, right, David?
So again, thank you first and foremost just for letting me have this opportunity and hopefully I can do something to honor what you guys have done.
I believe you are, and I mean, I speak for all of us here. It's like, I having you as a member of our, as we're going to be calling it, our preservation society. It just feels like more like it feels more meaningful. That we have the person who worked on X-Files CCG way back when as a member of that. So, I mean, as I said, we're not the only game in town. I said that earlier, but we're the only game in town that has David May in it.
Well, again, this vanity project, when the kernel of idea of what could you do first came up, and it's like, we would never be able to do this in real life. Oh my goodness, we can do it here. How do you pass on that?
Yeah, I'm excited to even get to this point. So it's like all the more reason. It's like let's get through the play testing of all, and get through all these others. Not too fast because we obviously really want to give a hard look to each expansion. But again, this is just one of many things that I'm looking forward to trying.
Back to some decorum. Treat us with respect.
And so you have plenty of time to refine the ideas for it, Mr. May, because obviously we'll have a lot to play test before we get to it. But that just leaves you ample time. And it's going to be a really exciting game. And I like that it's going to be like sort of like a faster pace. We're already going to know the affiliation going into it. So we just have to figure out motive, method, and result to wrap it up. But like, I think that's great because, just for those times when you want to just do a fast game of it, that this is the answer to that.
Yeah. All I know is blue M&Ms, red M&Ms.
They all wind up the same color in the end.
That's all I know, man. It's an incredibly fun. It makes you stop and read the cards. It's like you said with Scooby-Doo. When I opened up this thing and saw it, I went, oh my gosh. Not just because it's The Simpsons, just the whole shooting match.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I really got to give Guillaume a lot of credit for the work he did in a very short amount of time. We only talked about this like earlier this month, or maybe it was late January, and he already came up with these brand new templates in a very short amount of time. It was so unexpected. I know even like you hastily put these together, these mock-ups just for this presentation, Guillaume. You did that I gotta say that must have been record time.
It's right. It's on brand.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the cards, like the temporary bureau file numbers that accept XF23, and because I think you first mentioned that maybe something would be done with the Springfield episode, but I didn't know what it was going to be or who was going to do it, and it just inspired me that summer to just start creating the mock-ups and the templates. And then after we had the meeting with Mr. May, that's when I decided to go full comic graphic. Like for instance, I had the envelope behind the equipment card, the newspaper on the event card that was the newspaper as the actual cards that we know. And after that meeting, I was like, okay, I need to not just have the cartoon pen, but also the newspaper also has to be cartoon, and
everything's cartoon. Yes, I love it.
I'm telling you, mad skills. If I was only younger, you're hired. You would have been hired. I mean, nothing against. Now, whoever sees this that we're back in the day, right? Oh, great, Dave got rid of us. No. You were in.
But I think also when I was collecting the cards back in the day, I was like 11 or 12, and I think the way they were presented, I think it had a huge influence on me, on the way that I liked, to do things with some of the things that I designed just for fun. I think this has really made an impression. So getting to do this now for a purpose for this group and just for fun, it really means a lot.
So back to you guys. I don't want to spoil anymore. I mean, I already tipped quite a bit. Honestly, I don't even know if I really intended to tip that much, but I went ahead and did. So
that's fine because it's that bit of teasing has to linger on for quite a while before these get to be released, which is so far down the line. But it's going to be exciting when that happens.
Because it's vanity, I don't know if anybody wants to leak these out to the rest of the community now.
Well, I think they need to watch this video on Studio Slim. I want them to see. I want them to watch this.
Well, then wait a while, but I would. I mean, I don't really need a market pull if these snuck out into the Facebook group to hear what the response would be. They are so visually impacting. I am waiting on the Mulder one though. The Mulder one is the money shot when you get Mulder done. Because you got 1 to 2 GQ shots, that's just game over. that, you know. So, but there's many other cards you're going to want out of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Out
Well
of this.
done.
Game over.
Yep. And so, David, I think it's about time we bring it to a close. Nathan and I, it is after 1. We need to get to sleep.
I'm fading big time.
All right. Well, fittingly, the next one is recap. I think we pretty much talked this out, but here is
Yep,
the timeline.
That's it.
Just to kind of go back over the fan expansions here.
Wow.
But yeah, you can see the body of work that has been done and is still in front of us. There's a lot going on here. And so we didn't even touch on the Lone Gunman or Field Office Crime Lab. So, gosh, what are you guys doing Sunday night for another discussion? You ready for another 3-hour?
Dude, I'm gonna. I just got to get through WinterSlam. Don't even talk about Sunday. Once we get WinterSlam out of the way, I'm taking Sunday to relax. Good Lord. Yeah, no, we didn't cover a lot of stuff. Yeah, we didn't even talk about the 100617, but yeah, it's ongoing. We've got 41 cards already made for that. 41 or 42 already available for that one. It is ongoing. So Nathan, if you want to do your own personalized episode that you want to that you feel is a worthy inclusion into that expansion, by all means. Otherwise, eventually I'll get back to doing more cards for that one once, especially once I get season 5 in the rearview mirror. Good Lord.
Do you think you're actually going to take a break after that, Stephen? I don't
at least from like card design. I mean, from like designing huge expansions like 4 and 5. Yes, absolutely. I've got these little ones with like the checklist expansions now that it's out there. I got to do the 3rd one, and then the 4th one will eventually come. But that's something that can be staggered, obviously, because I want to give Guillaume some time to get his 6 and 7 expansions out there, and 8 as well. So yeah, those will come in due time. But yeah, I guess you're right. It will never be completely taking a break from card design altogether, not by a long shot.
You'll find inspiration in different things, I'm sure. And just when you think you're out, we pull you back in.
Mm-hmm.
Seinfeld.
Very nice.
I got that from The Godfather Part 2.
It is, yeah. Seinfeld spoofed it.
Yeah, that's right.
But I really appreciate you picking up on those references. I pull those references around the house here, and nobody.
You get crickets.
No, they just think that's the way I talk, and it's like, no.
What's crazy is like we don't even have all the expansions that we're doing are represented on this one slide. And kudos to Guillaume for putting this together. I know he went through like at least 2 drafts before you got this one done, because obviously, yeah, we got season 9 eventually is going to appear on there. So we'll seasons 10 and 11. Yeah, my hat's off to whoever does those last 2. But yeah, we've got the 2 other checklist expansions, that are going to come up. And yeah, the Lone Gunman, to say nothing about that. And who knows where else we'll go after that. Did Mulder and Scully do a crossover in anything else that we don't know about? I know they did something like
comic book
go there.
Yeah, maybe at a later time, but it's like, good Lord, there's so much material to draw from. So it's amazing, the scope of this. And hence, like, why it's like you look at this and it's like, yes, of course, we need to have like our own website dedicated to all of the work that we've done. And this image here just represents, is the best image the best single image I can think of to represent like all the work that we're going to do and what we've done and what's still to come. It's
Fight the Future isn't even on here either.
It is. It's Blackwood.
Is it?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. Oh yeah, the I Want to Believe. That's another one too. Good Lord, that's not on there. Yeah.
Well,
anyway.
I guess you guys are going to make that master poster, because if you do, I will be glad to print one in color and stick it on my wall.
There you go.
Because that is art right there, man. That there is worth printing and putting in the frame. But that would be massively killer. That one poster with those backs, with all the backs.
Mhm.
Again, you know.
Well, I prefer it to when it says completed on each one of
but-
them. Good
But
lord.
I see them completed in my mind's eye when that is an impressive. Again, I tip my cap. I don't have one, but
Yeah,
I tip it anyway.
Should be that alien hat.
you would see this at like a corporate roadmap, like you know, the beginning of the fiscal year. This would be the slide. This would be the killer slide that shows everybody this is what we're
This
working
is
on.
better than their killer slides. Trust me.
Yeah.
This is better.
Again, bravo, Guillaume. Nice work on
Yeah.
all of that.
All right, guys, get some sleep. You got a busy
Okay.
day tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yep.
Guillaume, I'll
That's
see
my-
you in less than 7 hours, 6 hours.
Ooh, boy.
At
Eight,
least
yeah.
Guillaume doesn't have to sleep between now and then. Thank lucky for him. So he'll be fresh and ready to go. The question is, will you, Dave?
Well, we'll see how it
I
plays
wish I
out.
could watch that, but I'm going to be hosting at that time, so I'll have to catch the replay.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll be a short one. But anyway, thank you very much, everyone everyone on the panel. Dave May, thank you very much. Guillaume, all this work, incredible. Stephen, thank you very much for narrating a lot of this. Nathan joining us and filling us in on all of your stuff, all the new things that you're working on to keep the game fresh, and everyone who joined us. Mike Preem, sorry it didn't work out. That's what happens when you live in the sticks. I know how that goes. And of course, Dax Golding, major player in a lot of what we do here. Was not present on the panel, but definitely in our hearts. Thank you to everyone who joined us live, all 2 of you, which I think one of you is Stephen. He has a browser tab open there for YouTube. But somebody else is out there. Thank you very much. And for everyone who watches after the broadcast is finished later on, thank you again. If you like this kind of content, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. That way we know that you want to see more of these kinds of things. And we'll bring them to you. Clearly, we can talk a long time. So we'll be coming back with more. Thanks again, gentlemen. Enjoy your evening, your morning, your afternoon, wherever you are. And Guillaume, I'll see you in just a few hours.
Yes, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Sleepy time.